Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 11 of the Former Action Guys podcast. I'm your host, Justin Kramer, and today we have on former Sergeant Major Tracy Offutt, retired. He retired out of 1st ANGLICO. That's where I met him at. I had the honor of being in his retirement ceremony, part of the flag turnover to him, and he's just... as you see, you can probably look at the time. This podcast is looking at 3.5 hours long. It's a long podcast, but I think once you start listening to it, you're going to find yourself kind of pulled into it because Tracy Offutt has been all over and done so many jobs. Like, you know, he started out in the National Guard, in the Army National Guard, and he'll discuss that. He went into the Marine Corps Infantry, and he basically stayed infantry from the time he came in till all the way up through first sergeant, because his first unit as a first sergeant was with an infantry unit. And so yeah, he talks about that. He talks about going to the Gulf War and what it was like as an infantryman in the Gulf War. He also goes through, you know, the in-between phase between the Gulf War and kind of like the GWAT time frame where, you know, he did a lot of training operations, UDPs and stuff like that, but he also went out and he was a drill instructor. So we get a little bit into his time on the drill field in San Diego. So yeah, it's a really good podcast. It comes, we get through a pretty good amount of his career. The major parts that we talk about, I'd say that a lot of people are going to be interested in are his time in Ramadi. And I'll tell you, man, he was, as a first sergeant, that had to have been rough. He lost 8 guys from his company. So that means 8 dudes that were directly under him, you know, as being the first sergeant. And that's just the reality of the job, and it's an unfortunate position, and I can't imagine the stress of a leader that has to deal with that many casualties on a deployment and stuff like that. So it's a really good story. We didn't get through everything in 3.5 hours. This guy's been in the military for over 30 years, so I'm definitely gonna have him back on, and I'm thinking I got a plan to have him and another dude on at the same time, and we'll all sit down together and just kind of talk and tell stories, and I think that'll be a really good podcast. But I wanted to get Sergeant Major Tracy Offutt's story out there. He also did want to tell me, as soon as we finished the interview, he one of the Marines that was killed in Ramadi, he mispronounced his name, and he just wanted to make sure that if anybody out there knows that kid, he knows his name, and he speaks with the kid's family on a pretty regular basis. So there was no kind of, you know, I don't know. He just wanted to make sure that people knew that, you know, he didn't forget somebody that was killed under his name. So yeah, anyway, make sure to check out my website, jkramergraphics.com. Freelance graphic design, I do that. I'm in school also, so I do full-time student work, and then on the side, I'm doing this graphic design work. I got a couple designs I'm working for guys that are overseas, and a group that's getting ready to go overseas, and I appreciate them giving their business to me. I can also, if you already have a logo, feel free to send it to me. I can add that to hoodies, sweatshirt, or hoodies, t-shirts, you know, hats, freaking whatever, you know, hit me up and let me know what it is you're looking for your unit or organization. Obviously, this isn't just for military. Also, check out my Instagram page, jkramergraphics, and Twitter at Former Action Guys. So, that's the number 4, MER Action Guys. And I believe that's it. So, if you have any questions or you guys have any suggestions for the future, feel free to hit me up. I answered some questions that people that follow me on Instagram and Facebook, that I had them send in some questions I put in that I was going to be interviewing Tracy Offutt. So there's a few questions there at the end from listeners. So do get on that, follow my page, subscribe and everything like that. That way you can, you know, get in on asking questions for some of the guests and stuff that I feel like are people you want to ask questions from, I guess. You know, they're smarter people than me, and they have more interesting stories than me, so why not throw any questions you have at them? They're the experts. So anyway, without further ado, here is this week's episode with Tracy Offutt.
Yeah, let me know if it's wrong or we have to adjust it. I can always adjust.
No, you're good. But yeah, a lot of people come in and that I interview, and they're like, I don't really have a story. I don't have anything to talk about. But then we'll sit here for 2 or 3 hours and like I always tell people, I'm like, just joining the military is like an odd thing for a lot of Americans. 1,
yeah.
And then 2, if you were able to, you know, go do whatever crazy thing that everybody gets to do something cool in their career. There's always something interesting that you got to do. And I just think that people should tell their story and stuff like that. So, I mean, even when I was a mechanic, I still got to go shoot 50 cals and, I went to Iraq and stuff like that. So there's still a story there. People are thinking of, the problem is people compare themselves to other people that they know that have done more.
Right.
Or that they perceive have done more, and like that's some kind of bad thing that they didn't, go and get a silver star in some ambush where half your buddies get killed, something like, and it's like, we were talking about on one of the last, I think the last podcast or the one before, it was like, why would you even want someone to go through that? Like, why would you even want to, like, that have been your path? You got to do something crazy and you have a story, but it can, so.
Or somebody has to get hurt in order for you to have a story.
Yeah, and that's what I think is people think that's what's required, and it's not. Everyone has a story to tell, including yourself. So let's start from the beginning. Where are you from originally, and then why did you decide to join the military?
Oh, so originally I'm like from everywhere, military brat.
Okay.
I'm from New Mexico technically. That's where I went to high school. I lived everywhere else before then. El Paso, the East Coast, Germany, Italy, France.
Oh, okay.
With my stepdad and my mother. How did I end up in the military? So the Army used to have a program for the Army National Guard where you join in between your junior and senior summer in high school.
Oh, okay. I never heard of that.
You go to Bootcamp and your AIT school over that 3-month period. And then you'd go into the National Guard, finish out you had to graduate from high school. That was one of the requirements. So you had to finish out your high school year. And then you could remain in the National Guard or in the Army National Guard, or you could ask to go into the regular Army. So that was my plan. So I did that at 16. I signed everything, couldn't leave till I was 17. What
year was this?
That was 83.
Okay. That's the year I was born.
Oh, really? And there we have it.
Anyway.
So did that. Wasn't quite as mature as I thought I was. Didn't do so well in the Army National Guard. Got promoted and busted and promoted and busted. And it's hard to get in trouble in the National Guard. You really have to go out of your way.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, even the National Guard's like the reserves where you only meet 1 weekend a month, right?
1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, and I used those opportunities to make an ass out of myself.
Okay, and then
and back then you could drink at 18, which means you could really drink at 17, or 16 or whatever. Got kind of like let go.
Okay.
Like, it's like, hey, you've completed the portion that we require of you, but we don't want you to come back.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I was working at a chili packing plant when it was in season, and then the rest of the year I'd pick chili or work on farms or whatever. And my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, so that's another whole story. Mm-hmm. We went on a date to a party of a friend of ours that was getting married. And then she stayed there with the women. That's what they do. They all go in the kitchen. Yeah. And we got hella drunk, and then we went to get more beer and ended up getting in a big fight, and my friend got put in the hospital with 54 stitches around both eyes.
Oh, man. Jeez.
So I came back about 5:30, 6 in the morning to pick her up and take her home. And she was like, no, I can't go home now. I left with you on a date last night, and now it's 6 o'clock in the morning. My parents are from Old Mexico. They're not going to accept that.
Yeah.
So she ended up moving in with me.
Oh, really?
Yep. Then we realized she was pregnant.
It was that extreme, huh? So can't even go home. Not today, but not...
No, I had to force her. It took about 3 days. I had to force her to allow me to go see her dad and explain what had happened.
Okay.
That's
old school.
Yeah, I had to force her. She was like, I'm never going home. There's no going home. It's over. And I was like, no, we're going to go see your dad. And that took me about 3 days, and she finally gave in. We went to see her dad. And her mom came out with a big kitchen knife. It was a big drama. And nobody was speaking English, so it was even scarier than you think, because you're like, I don't even know what they're saying. But so that ended up, she's pregnant. I'm like, damn. So we moved to Oakland, California, to Alameda. I had an uncle who was one of those guys that would get really rich and then lose everything, and then get really rich and then lose everything.
Okay.
And so he says, "Hey, if you come out here, I'll give you $1,000," which back then was enough to get an apartment, get started.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'll give you $1,000, and I'll ensure you at least have some place to work." So I went out there, got a job at the Mr. Espresso Company. This is before the whole coffee craze. So the only places you could get fancy coffee was like Italian restaurants, French restaurants, stuff like that. Everywhere else was like Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
And so we imported that stuff, and then knowing that my wife was pregnant, I'm like, I'm going to need some kind of health insurance.
Yeah.
So I decided to go back into the military, called the Coast Guard, and they just kind of laughed at me. Called the Air Force, and that guy was like, "Nah, I'm not taking you. You got 2 or 3 NJPs, prior service, we don't want you." And I told them I was studying trigonomics or whatever, and they were like, "We don't care about that." And then I called the Marine Corps, and the recruiter said, "I'll be at your house in half an hour." And then I was kind of like, damn, what'd I get myself into?
Oh, shit. I don't want to leave today, though.
Yeah, and next thing you know, he's like, "Hey, you're shipping, you're going open contract. I got everything filled out. Sign here, sign there." And
you saved that guy's day.
Yeah.
And his month, maybe.
Yeah, he was the guy.
So
he was a motivator.
So you came in open contract, huh?
Yeah. The one thing I said I wasn't going to do.
Yeah, me too. My dad was in the Army, and I was like, when they offered me open contract, I'm like, fuck no, because I'll become a cook or a fucking mechanic. Guess what? I became a fucking mechanic.
Well, that's funny, because when I told my dad I had considered the Marines back in high school, and he's like, "Oh, hell no, you'll end up a cook or a grunt." And I was like, "All right, well, I'll do this Army thing." And thank God I did that first, so I got a second chance. But yeah, same thing. He's like, "Don't go open contract. What are you, crazy?"
Yeah.
But
where'd you go to boot camp?
San Diego.
Okay, so right down the road.
Yeah, so I've been here in this area just about since '86. Only
Really?
5 years of my entire 33-year career did I spend out of the Camp Pendleton area.
Really? So this whole Southern California's home.
Yeah.
Like all of it now, even Camp Pendleton. So what year did you go to boot camp?
86.
86, MCRD San Diego. What was that like?
It's pretty awesome. Kind of like in the movies,
Yeah. How'd it compare to going through the Army boot camp? Because you'd gone through that previously, right?
Yeah, so interesting thing.
Where was your Army boot camp at?
Fort Bliss, Texas.
Okay.
So Army boot camp was relatively challenging at the time, but it wasn't as challenging as I expected.
Okay.
Marine Corps boot camp, and some of this could be just because of my perception.
Yeah.
Was more challenging than I expected, but maybe because I had an idea of what boot camp was before.
Yeah, you were like, "Oh, I've already kind of done this."
Yeah.
How much could be different?
Yeah, and it was a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot different.
So you probably had to get through some like growing pains, like probably had some bad habits built in already from Army boot camp, right?
Oh yeah, but the Marine Corps doesn't allow any of those bad habits.
Yeah,
boot camp is like, "Hey, we're going to do it our way." So
nice. So when you got out with you got done with boot camp, then where'd you go for school? What would they choose for you?
I went to the infantry. I was 0351. Well, you don't know when you leave boot camp. You just go to the grunts. You're 0300. And went to SOI here in Camp Pendleton.
Okay.
And then I guess sometime during that period of time when you're in there, they split you up by MOS according to your GT score or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they did it back then. But the first thing they looked for was barracks duty Marines.
Oh, okay.
So they go through and screen everybody for barracks duty. And I wanted to go to barracks duty Philippines because, everybody wanted to go to the Philippines.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But they're like, "Nope, you have, 2 NJPs in your past and you came in on a marijuana waiver and blah, blah, blah. So you can't go on reliability duty. So you couldn't go to barracks duty. So you just go straight to the grunts." And so I ended up going to the Dragons platoon.
Okay.
Which was before the Javelin. And I don't even know what they have now.
Why not? They still use the Javelin. Well, I think they combined them though.
Yeah.
I think your assaultmen and your Javelin dudes are combined.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I could be talking out of my ass. But
that's how it used to be. Like 0351 was your small gunner and your dragon gunner.
Okay.
Small guys went to their line companies. Dragon gunners went to weapons company.
Okay.
And then 0352 was the toes. And then, but you could get switched back and forth. If you were a 51, they could say, "Hey, you're going to Alpha Company, weapons platoon."
Is the Dragon similar to the Javelin? I don't know what the Dragon is, to be honest.
The Dragon is like a toe.
Okay.
A man portable toe.
Oh, okay.
So it's a wire guided rocket you put on your shoulder, like a bazooka looking thing.
Yeah.
And you had a sight, and you fire the rocket, and then you could track the tank with the sight. Mm-hmm. But it took 10 seconds to go 1,000 meters.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah,
so it's slow.
Yeah, it would go pop, 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 pop. You could watch it go down range. And so you had to hold your position on the tank or whatever you were shooting at for the entire 10 seconds. And it would move. You could move. There was a certain amount of movement you could do. Mm-hmm. It had 66 rocket motors on it. So you couldn't do a lot of movement because you burn all the rocket motors out and they would just fall out of the sky.
Huh.
But, so if you're under fire or anything like that, you got to sit there for the whole 10 seconds and hold that thing on target.
Just be steady.
While it flew down range.
How often did you get to shoot a live one?
Probably twice a year back then. You'd get maybe 1 or 2 rockets a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you didn't get a lot, and if you were the platoon idiot, you didn't get any.
Makes sense.
You had to earn the right to shoot the live rockets,
Yeah.
And platoon of 30 guys, there'd maybe be 10 rockets.
Okay.
So.
Huh. Okay. All right. So when you finished SOI, where was the first place you got sent?
2-7 at San Mateo.
How was that? Checking into your first infantry unit. What year was this?
That was still 86.
86?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was like in August or something. I don't know. Some people can remember the date, like on June 3rd, 1955. Yeah, I don't remember any of that.
I can get years roughly. I imagine it's going to slip more as I get older.
Yeah, but I never was really a date guy.
So, how was it checking into 2-7?
Oh, wow. Good question.
Did you have an impression of it before? Before that, was there any units you guys were like, I really want to go to this one? Like, at that time, was there like historical units you're like, I really would like to go to this unit? Or was it just,
I don't think so. I don't think we knew enough about what we were doing.
Okay.
Little PFCs, we had no clue.
You're just like, tell me where to go.
Yeah, the only information we had is what other PFCs told us, and they didn't know either. and back then, the club system was up on base.
Okay.
And you could drink on base when you were 18. And so our major concern wasn't what unit to go to, but was what camp to be stationed at, who had the best E-Club.
Who had the best E-Club then?
Yeah, the Del Mar E-Club.
Yeah?
Yeah, the Del Mar E-Club was featured in, I think, Playboy magazine. In 86 or 87, it was featured in Playboy magazine as one of the top 60 clubs in Southern California.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you wanted to go to the Del Mar E-Club. The Del Mar E-Club had 3 sections. They had a country western section. At that time, it was soul music.
Yeah.
It would be hip-hop now, but it was soul music. And then they had kind of a pop section.
Okay.
So it had 3 dance floors, 3 different bars, all in this one big building. And it was just like, it was like going to a concert in San Diego.
Were civilians allowed to come on and go to it?
Yeah, so you could get escorted on, and get passes. And when you'd leave there, they'd have the guard would be out in force in riot gear, kind of forcing the crowd into the parking lot. MPs it was like kind of like when you go to the fireworks at Del Mar now.
Oh, really?
How when it's trying to get out of there, you just cars everywhere and people.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that every Friday and Saturday Night Live or Saturday night. They'd just be forcing people out, and there's fights everywhere. It was a really good time.
Yeah. How did you? So you got to 2-7, and they were where at Mateo?
At Mateo.
How did you get it over there? Was there like a bus system on base, or?
Yeah, there used to be the green bus, the green weenie.
Yeah, is that what you called it?
Yeah, it was a green weenie, and they ran like 4 times a day, and then each unit had to give up people to go to bus driving school to drive those buses, and so if you had a
Oh, man.
If you had an appointment, say at Naval Hospital Camp Pendleton, and you didn't have a car, a lot of people didn't have cars back then, you'd get on the green weenie at, 07, and it would take you all the way through base, and by 10 o'clock you'd get to the hospital, and hopefully your appointment was then, and then you'd take the rest of the day to come back, because the bus only ran, like twice in the morning, twice at lunch, and twice in the evening. So it wasn't all day. So if somebody went to dental...
God forbid if you missed a bus.
Yeah, if you missed a bus. I picked up loads of Marines walking down the road, like outside of Horno, in the middle of nowhere, just walking, going either direction.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, where you going? I picked up a guy in Horno one time that was going to the Del Mar E Club. So it was Friday, like at noon. We had Aloha Friday. We got off early. And I had to go to Main Side for something, and I was headed that way. And I'm like, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to the Del Mar E Club. I said, it's noon. He goes, yeah, it's going to take me till 5 or 6 o'clock to get there.
That's funny.
So he actually didn't even want to ride because he didn't want to get there so early. He had to stand around and do nothing.
Yeah, that just gives him something to do. That's funny. How was 2-7 when you got there, and then you got put with your fire team, squad, platoon? Like, how was all that?
So, it always sucks showing up by yourself, especially as a private.
Yeah.
So
so you didn't have anybody else, just you? No,
you get on the bus at San Onofre, and it went out to Horno, and a lot of guys got off at Horno. And you think, okay, well, some of these guys are going to go where I'm going.
Yeah.
And then it came back to Mateo, and it was dropping people off, and there's a sergeant on there that tells you, hey, everybody that's going to 1-7, get off now. And I don't know where I'm going, Sergeant. And, guys get off. And then I was the last guy on the bus. And so they let you off, and they're like, all right, get off. There's the command post. Go inside of there and find the OOD. We didn't know what the OOD was.
Yeah, you're like, all right, good to go. I have no idea what it means.
All you say is, yes, Sergeant, and then you get off and go do it. And so it's Friday, and it was after Liberty Call. So I get off the bus, go in there. They're like, oh, you're going to weapons company. So they take me down to the barracks, and it was flat top barracks.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, all right. They find the fire watch, and the fire watch finds the duty NCO, and he says, all right, give him a room. So they stick me in a room, and it's a 4-man room. They're pretty spacious. I think it was a converted squad bay.
Okay. Converted
to rooms. And so it's a 4-man room, and now I go in there, nothing works. The light switches don't work. None of the outlets work. Of course, back then we didn't have cell phones, so nobody cared if the outlet worked. But and there was no wall locker that had was lockable.
Okay.
Except for one that was already locked, and that was Pete O'Mara's locker. He was a biker dude from Connecticut, that the wildest man on the face of the earth. So I, take my little rifle cable and I lock my sea bag up to the thing, and the fire watch comes in and goes, "Hey, you got fire watch, bitch." And I'm like, oh, okay, get your camis on. And then Corporal came over and goes, hey, you can't give him fire watch. You're not getting out of this. Get your ass back out there and start walking up and down the passageway. And he's like, don't listen to these fools. You're not even checked into the unit. You can't be on fire watch. So I real quick threw on some civilian gear and thought I'd go hide out at the chow hall or somewhere.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know where it was at. And Pete comes in, Pete O'Mara. And he's this big, muscular, bald-headed white guy from Connecticut. And he's like, oh, you're the new bitch? I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, come on, we're going to Oceanside. We're going to go party. And so we jump on the 305, which was the bus there on base.
Okay.
Ride the bus to Oceanside. And then he takes me to these wild biker parties where there's like hippies and bikers. And, I'm Mr. Naive, New Mexico small town guy, and there's all these crazy people. It was a good time though.
I've heard a lot of it's changed completely since it was Hill Street to what it is now here in Oceanside, which actually is not a really bad place to come hang out. Yeah, I can't imagine what that was like. So what was it like when you first started and you started getting into your training and working with your unit? Did you guys have any kind of deployments coming up, or what was the intent when you first got there?
So, yeah, you do your regular training. you normally go to the field Tuesday through Thursday, and that was probably 2 or 3 weeks out of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Come in on Monday, prep, clean weapons, run PT, whatever, and then you'd go to the field on Tuesday morning, come out on Thursday, get back, clean weapons, do the regular thing, and then on Friday, we'd either have like a battalion run or a hike, and depending on what was going on.
Which one did you prefer?
I actually like both of them.
Yeah,
because you got left alone.
Yeah.
When you're on a hump, I don't care if you're a PFC or whatever, you're on the hump, you're just walking. Everybody's just walking.
Yeah.
So you kind of get
just
left
keep
alone.
up and no one will fuck with you.
Yep. You don't get yelled at or sent on, crazy working parties. And it's some thought you could think, running, it was okay, but it was over too quick. The only good thing to the runs is you normally got done and then they'd talk for a little while and then you'd go clean weapons and then you'd go home.
Call it, yeah. That's how it was a lot of times when I was on the East Coast. I never really did any company or battalion PT, MU PT while I was out here at ANGLICO. There were a few company sessions, but I think I was there for one, and it was what was that game we would play?
Oh yeah, I love that game. I can't remember the name of it with the boards.
Yeah. I don't remember that. I only played it that one time, and I'm like, this isn't too bad.
It was pretty cool. It was kind of like soccer, but you didn't have to be good at.
Yeah.
That's what I liked about those games is they let everybody play.
Yeah, that was the only thing. That was the only time I ever had like a unit PT once I got out to the West Coast, just because, I was ANGLICO. Everyone was gone doing something every day.
Yeah, that was the only downside to ANGLICO. It was kind of scattered.
Yeah.
You didn't get that.
There was a couple. Well, I guess I did do the regimental or division, whatever it was. I don't know, MLG or MHG hike out to the beach. I was with you on that. Yeah, we did that together. Yeah. But anyway, back to 2-7. So, did you deploy at all when you were with 2-7?
Yeah, so I did UDP to Okinawa.
Okay.
Back when Okinawa was super fun.
Is it not anymore? I've never been to Oki. How many times did you go to Oki?
Oh shit! I'd have to search the memory banks.
A few times then, huh?
Yeah, I've been there quite a few times.
So, what was your first impression the first time you went, landed, got off the plane? Were you like, "What the fuck?" Like, was this your first time out of the country or anything like that? I
had grown up off and on in Europe.
Oh, that's true.
But I was a kid, so I don't remember anything but that stuff. And then I've been to Mexico a bunch of times because I live right on the border.
Yeah.
But I always had a affinity for, I think that's the right word. I liked Japanese stuff.
Yeah.
So going to Okinawa was a big deal. I was like, oh, this is awesome. But you'd get off, and they'd shuffle you down to the barracks, which was open squad bay on Camp Hansen. And those were great deployments, because you'd go to the field, you'd do the whole jungle training thing, and then from there you'd bounce to Korea, Philippines, maybe you might hit Australia if you got lucky. All the
You're just bouncing around, hitting all the exercises going on within the Asia Pacific region.
Yep, Thailand. But Okinawa was a blast back then because right outside the gate was Kinville, and Kinville was like Mardi Gras. It was all bars and like cassette salesmen on the street. They were selling cassettes, like Rolling Stones, and you could buy T-shirts and Aloha shirts, and you could waste all your money in Kinville and never go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And they had the Mojo. They would serve Mojo, which is, I don't really know the recipe. They actually have a T-shirt that has a recipe, but it's like all kinds of different liquors mixed together with Kool-Aid or something. And you could definitely get in trouble with that. And then you just walk back through the gate, get beat up by the gate guard because you're acting like a fool, and go back to the barracks, and everything was good. And they had CCU, Correctional Custody Unit. So if you got in real trouble...
Yeah, I heard about that. That's something that people always were like, we need to bring this back. Like, for those that don't know what it is, you want to explain kind of what it was and how it worked?
So, yeah, CCU was a Correctional Custody Unit. So it's basically like a kind of a boot camp jail. Mm-hmm. So you'd get sent to CCU. I think you could go for like one day. I know a guy that went for one day, and maybe that was a scared straight program or whatever. But I think they could give you up to 30 days at the time, because we had a big brawl outside the barracks, and a friend of mine took the OOD's nightstick, and so he got sent for 30 days because he tried to attack the OOD with the nightstick that he took away from him. Yeah,
the OOD probably got in trouble for that one too.
Yeah, well, it was terrible for the OOD. He's one guy trying to deal with 10 drunk people, and you know what they say.
It sucks. Every time you're on OOD, you're just like, God, I hope nothing happens. Like, it's like, God, just hopefully nothing happens tonight.
Yep, that was it. And I felt bad for the guy because I'm like, damn, who's the bigger idiot? The drunk person or the sober person trying to talk to the drunk person? I think they're both equally stupid, but that OOD, so anyway, he got sent for 30 days. So CCU, you go there, and I had to go to the in-dock day. So if you get in trouble, they could send you to in-dock, which you go out to the football field, and they have 10 or 15 podiums across the length of the football field.
Okay.
And you run to the podium, and you have to read whatever's on there, general order or whatever. And you're yelling it at the top of your lungs, and then you have to run to the next podium. You know, the second rule of CCU is, I will respect all authority, blah, 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 blah. And they make you yell it over and over and over. And you go through this, and you do this all day.
Oh, you're just running
back
between each one and yelling out the order, huh?
Little interval sprints in between, and you're in camis, you know, and you're yelling, and they got CCU instructors yelling at you, or correctional custody guys, and it's hot, it's humid, it's Okinawa, and then by the end of the day you can't speak, or they got you yelling at trees. They had trees that you had to yell at, and you had to say yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, or yes sergeant, or whatever. And I don't know what happens after that, but I know you go to the squad bay, and in the squad bay, it's just like boot camp. Mm-hmm. Everything is just like boot camp. They're basically re-indoctrinating people.
That's what I've kind of heard about it too, and that you like all day you're doing something. There's no sitting around. There's no, because I've heard about guys going to the brig before, and they're like, like you go in and sit in a chair all day and read Marine Corps knowledge or whatever, and you're not allowed to talk, but it's pretty like low key. I mean, you still get treated kind of like you're in boot camp, but it's low key. And then I've heard people talk about CCU, and they're like, that's where you're breaking rocks and doing stupid shit like that.
Yeah, that's what they did. They actually did break rocks.
Yeah,
they're out there with their eye protection and sledgehammers, breaking rocks, making gravel. But
I heard it was a pretty good program. Dudes come back from it and like, all right, I'm gonna.
I was totally impressed by it.
And isn't that like your step before like going to the brig, basically?
Yeah, that was kind of like an NJP type of thing, and then if you really you committed a felony or some major crime, then you court-martial, you're going to the brig.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with it. So you go inside after you do your in-dock thing, and you went inside, and this guy gives you a brief. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing sergeant chevrons. And he gives you a brief. This is what it's the daily routine. You're going to get up. You're going to shave by the numbers. You're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And he gives you the whole daily routine. And then at the end of his spiel, he says, and this is the worst part about it. And he takes his chevrons off. And he goes and he stands on line. And he is one of
he's one of the dudes.
He's one of the guys.
Oh.
And he was a sergeant, which back then, a sergeant was a big deal.
Yeah.
The average guy didn't make sergeant for 5 or 6 years.
Oh, really?
So
now you get guys that'll pick it up in 2, 3, maybe.
Yeah. The what was amazing back then, if you knew a guy that picked up sergeant in 4 or 5 years.
Put that out there.
Yeah, it's neither.
Some jobs are harder than others to get promoted in, but
yeah. Well, the Dragons, when I was in Dragons, I had a 9-year corporal.
Really?
Yeah.
So not much has changed in that kind of field then, because I think it stayed like that even when they were javelin dudes and like your assault men. They have like the worst.
Yeah, it's really slow. Or it was then. I don't know what it's like now.
I remember a few years ago them talking like dudes are getting out. I mean, it was pretty common to be a 4-year Lance Corporal getting out of that, having done like a deployment or 2 and stuff. But
oh, yeah. Huh. Back then, in 87, I came back from that Okinawa deployment, and I ran into a guy who got out right when we got back. I ran into him here in Oceanside, and he had become like hippie surfer dude.
Yeah.
And he was all happy, and I didn't recognize him. I ran into him. I was going to Dorothy's, get your camis back from the cleaners.
Yeah.
And,
it's still there, huh?
Yeah, Dorothy's
That place has been there forever.
Yeah, get your stuff starched, everything, That was the number one excuse to get out of field day. Was, hey, I got to go to Dorothy's to pick up my uniforms. Because if you said, I have to pick up my wife from the airport, the sergeant was going to tell you no. My kid is in the hospital. I don't care. It's field day.
Yeah.
But if you said I have to go pick up my uniforms from Dorothy's,
you're good. You're all good.
They'd let you go.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, I ran into him. And he was all proud. He had got his corporal promotion in the mail while he was on terminal or
IRR or whatever.
Yeah, he was in the IRR.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll happen. So when you got back from the deployment, did you stay with 2-7? Or what was after that? Were you coming up on your re-enlistment time about this time? Or
Yeah, so I got back from that deployment, and I thought I was going to get out.
Yeah.
So they kind of gave you, like, you went on leave, after deployment and stuff. You came back, and they got everybody in the company together and like, all right, who's staying by EAS? They broke you up by EAS. Everything was really efficient back then. They broke you up by EAS, and they told you, hey, are you re-enlisting? Are you extending? Do you want to go on the next deployment? And if you said no, that group of people, all the no's, they got in formation, and they marched over to 3-9, which was also at San Mateo.
Okay.
You just got in formation, and you grabbed your sea bag, and you marched over to 3-9, and you checked into 3-9.
What was that, like a holding battalion to get out at, or was that?
So it was.
They were just off cycle at that time.
Yeah, they were off cycle.
Okay.
So you'd have time to finish out your
contract there before they were going to deploy
without messing up their deployment cycle.
Okay.
And so I didn't know. I don't know. Okay, get in that group. And that was the decision making. So I ended up in 3-9, and then the first Gulf War kicked off, and so we went to the first Gulf War, and we were over there 8 or 9 months. At what point did you start hearing like, oh man, we might be going to Iraq or something? Like when did the talk start happening? So my dad also, he was in the Gulf War. He was with the 377th Combat Support Hospital with the Army. And I was little. At some point I'm going to find this picture of me and my sister, my brother, and my dad standing in front of, they always had those big world maps and units for some reason. And we got a picture in front of that before we deployed. I'm going to put that up on the Instagram at some point. But well, at what point did you start hearing like oh shit, we might be going to, there might be a war, So that's funny. Never heard of Iraq.
Yeah, I mean, because this is before cell phones. This is before the internet, or this is like, it wasn't commercially available internet and stuff like that. So this is like, everything's word of mouth. If you didn't read it in a newspaper, see it on like the 5 or 6 channels you might have had.
Yeah, there was one TV in the barracks, and it didn't have cable. Cable was starting to become popular, but it was still an antenna TV.
Yeah.
But we had a VHS. You could watch VHS movies. But we went on... we went to Seattle Seafair.
Okay.
And we were going to go to Vancouver, Canada for something, I don't know. And like a Fleet Week or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So we got on the Bella Wood, and we got to Seattle, and they had, they got TVs in the berthing areas on the ship, and it was the ship's TV. Yeah. And they were showing the news, and it was tanks driving across the desert, saying that Saddam Hussein had invaded Kuwait. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know where Kuwait was or Iraq, and didn't care. Like, hey, we're going to Canada. We're going to Vancouver. We're going to party with the foreigners. And I went outside to smoke on the side of the ship, and I looked, and I was like, damn, the moon's in the wrong place. We're headed the wrong direction. And I thought, maybe we're doing boxes or, whatever they do, the ships. And then a gunny came in and told us to get all our crap together, and we're going to 29 Palms. So we came back, got off the ship, went back to the barracks, grabbed our crap, packed everything up, went to 29 Palms. And then while we were at 29 Palms, we're doing like some kind of, preparation training. Yeah. We're doing that. And we were there about 2 weeks. And then we got on planes and went to the Gulf.
So it was like real quick, and you kind of really didn't. You were just along for the ride.
Yeah, we didn't.
No real information.
No, there was nothing back then. You didn't. You just kind of. And I was a sergeant by then. I had re-enlisted to be a 0331 because Dragons couldn't get promoted. So I looked at all the charts, all the promotions, and I kind of figured out which MOS was going to be promotable on the next round.
Oh, okay.
And so I looked at it. I looked at my cutting score. I kind of did some math, and I was like, you know what? The only MOS in the infantry that I could re-enlist for, that I could actually get promoted in right now, would be machine guns. And then they offered me like airframe mechanic and something else. And but this was like immediate. I could stay in the unit, so I re-enlisted, and literally I made the cutting score the next month.
Nice.
So it worked out. So yeah, as a sergeant by then, I still didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
You just, hey, you take care of your 13 guy or your 12 guys.
So in that kind of, in that day, then like, if you wanted to know more about it, where would you go to find out?
You'd have to read.
So you're like, you just have to go to the library and look up the stuff, like get magazines.
Yeah, get a newspaper,
The print news was way more important in that time frame.
Yeah, you'd get, and they had everything was available to us, and they had, you could go to the library. And
there's always a base library.
Yeah, current newspaper, but most of your word came from Gunny, because you'd have 3 formations a day.
Yeah,
you'd have one in the morning, like the 0730 formation, which kind of screwed it up because you either had the PT before then, or you had to go to formation and then PT after. So it kind of made it difficult, for the platoon sergeants and squad leaders. And then you'd have a 1300 formation after lunch, and then you'd have a close of business formation.
And that's how you pass word then.
And that's how everybody got the word. You had your little green monster.
Everybody pull out their little book, start writing it down.
Yeah.
Because nowadays everybody just texts. It's like mass text. Everything's mass text.
Yeah, my son does. Since he's in the Army, he gets those texts on his phone, and he's like, "Oh, hold on, Dad, I gotta be here or whatever." But yeah, back then you had a formation. It was a lot better because it was you got to know everybody.
Yeah,
because you had to stand in formation. You got to be there 15 minutes early.
Yeah,
so you're standing there for 15 minutes before Gunny comes out, and then so there's 15 minutes of good conversation where you actually got to talk to people and learn about them.
Yeah.
And there was no phone for them to stick their face in. So you had to talk to each other.
Yeah. Different time.
Yeah. And then Gunny would come tell us whatever he wanted us to know or whatever we needed. Yell at us about using too much toilet paper or losing a pillowcase, or whatever he was mad about. Or busting the light bulbs out on the catwalk. And then, and then at the end of the day, you'd have a formation at 1630, 1700. And that was usually the formation to yell at you for not going to dental. So, hey, these 5 people are going to dental. We're all going to stand here until they get back because they missed their appointment.
How would you get everybody the word if you were like in between like lunch formation and end of the day formation? Like, so let's say something big happened and you need to get everybody rounded up. How would you get a hold of everybody?
You had a company runner.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody that couldn't hack into one of the platoons usually end up in the company office as the runner, and he would run to all the different platoon sergeants and get them, and then they were responsible to get their guys.
Yeah. So it was on them to know where their dudes were at so they could let them know where the... And now it's just all cell phone.
Yeah.
All that's done with one text.
There was a lot more accountability back then. You couldn't disappear.
Yeah. Because I can tell you wherever I want to tell you I'm at on my phone. Yeah, I'm at dental.
Yeah.
As I'm perusing through the PX.
Exactly.
Man, so what was the formation like where they're like, hey guys, it looks like we're going... we're going to Iraq or we're going to overseas.
Yeah, normally they'll just tell you. They just say, hey, look here, bitches, this is what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you're going to have all your crap out here on the parade deck. You're going to lay it out. Here's the gear list. And they'd hand out one sheet of paper, and then you had to write it all down yourself. And then, Yeah,
because you didn't really have copiers and stuff back then.
Yeah, and you just write it down. I had a really good platoon sergeant when I was in 2-4 later on. And he would modernize everything. Yeah. He'd make a gear list, and he would actually take somebody and tell them, hey, go to the library, because you could get like 10 free copies at the library on base.
Okay.
And he'd make a copy for every squad, and then you just put it on the bulletin board in the barracks, and it would be,
there'd be a few people had it at that point.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more efficient. But you always ended up with the right stuff.
How was your gear list different for packing to go on an actual deployment?
A lot less.
A lot less stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes it more convenient, right?
Yeah.
How did you get over there? Did you fly or did you take a boat or?
We flew. To the first Gulf War?
Yeah.
Yeah, we flew.
What was that like? So where'd you fly into?
We flew into Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
Flew into Saudi Arabia, and then got on some of those Haji buses. Those, buses that are made out of aluminum foil.
Yeah.
And then drove to the Saudi border somewhere.
Out to the desert.
Yep. And
I've
then
been
we
in the
just
Saudi
moved.
desert. Yep.
We moved every other day for the first 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we just moved all over the desert. We'd go dig in our holes, dig positions, set up all the weapons, and then 2 days later, fill all that in and go somewhere else.
So when you were setting up and stuff, were you setting up for actual like, hey, we might have to defend this area kind of deal, or was it training still?
We trained while we were doing it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was, we'd set up little ammo boxes to crap in, and
yep.
I got really good at setting up a cami net.
Yeah.
You can set up a cami net and get the vehicle inside in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah?
From scratch. Takes 2 guys, but from scratch. From stop the vehicle, drop the cami net, have it up, and have the vehicle inside the cami net in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah. How long were you in Saudi Arabia, like, prepping before anything
I think we were
actually
there
happened?
9 months.
Yeah.
8 or 9 months. Because the invasion only lasted a couple weeks.
Yeah.
The day that we kicked off the invasion, we rolled in there underneath the burning oil fields.
That had to have been surreal.
It was a trip because I dozed off. So when we crossed the border, you could see in the distance, you could see the burning oil fields. You could see the like black cloud along almost to the horizon. And I dozed off, and I woke up. It was pitch dark. And I thought, damn, I slept all the way till nighttime.
all day.
And then I looked, and you could see the sunlight at the edge. We were underneath the burning oil cloud, and it was dark as hell in there. But you could see the sun at the end. And then, of course, we had to put our mop gear, our gas masks on.
While you were in the cloud, or?
Yeah, we put our gas masks on because there were supposed to be chemical weapons. And we were already all mop suited up.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you put your gas mask on, and then after a while, that got boring. So, like, I'm taking this thing off. And we came out the other side. A bunch of burning tanks and dead people everywhere. And
where were you? Where did you cross over at? Like, what areas were you in?
I can't remember. I'd have to look at a map. And then, I don't know.
Did you, once you passed through, like, I just can't imagine what it would be. That'd be crazy to see, like, the burning oil fields. Like, just I don't know. It's just crazy. The natural disaster tragedy that is, too. It's just,
yeah.
Yeah. I'd be afraid to, like, breathe, being around all that. That's just, that's pretty wild.
Oh, that's why the gas mask came out, because you had that strip that you put on your arm.
Okay.
That detected the chemicals.
Okay.
And it would get covered in the oil soot that was falling out of the sky, and it wouldn't change to the color it's supposed to change to, for whatever, a nerve agent or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it would change colors enough to make you put your gas mask on.
Oh, okay.
And somebody came around, gave us all clear, and so then we dug in that evening, I guess it was. Mm-hmm. And then the next morning, a few hours later, the mist is rising, the sun's starting to come up, and we start receiving fire. And I had just went through all the trouble of going back to the vehicle, get the squad stove, come back. I dug like a little notch in the parapet where the wind wouldn't blow out the squad stove, fired it up, and I was making coffee. And we started getting shot at, and there was a tank bridge right behind us. Mm-hmm. So we're getting shot at, and I'm like, God damn it, these guys, man.
I'm just trying to make some coffee.
I'm making coffee, and it was me and
Give
a guy.
me a minute.
Corporal White and another guy, Corporal Fisher. And I'm like, son of a bitch. And then I realized that my dumbass had left my weapon leaning up against the tire of the Humvee about 10 feet behind us. I'm in the hole making coffee, and my weapon is like 10 feet behind us.
The ultimate sin.
Yeah, so I got to jump out of the hole, go grab my weapon, come back, jump in the hole, and I realized the rounds are all impacting about 10 feet above our head.
Okay.
They're hitting the tank bridge.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, oh, we're pretty much okay then, you know?
That's a weird reality that you come to, like in a combat situation where you're getting shot at, and you're like, well, I'm pretty safe right here.
Yeah.
That spot over there is dangerous.
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to be there.
10 feet over there. But right here, I feel pretty comfortable. Yeah, you get pretty comfortable. It's weird like that.
Yeah, it's fun. I almost shot a guy taking a dump on accident. Because when the shooting started, he got disoriented. And instead of running straight back towards us, he was running along across the front of our position.
Oh.
And he had a shovel off the Humvee, off the Pioneer kit.
Yeah.
And it looked like a rifle in the mist.
Yeah.
So I told Fisher, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pop this dude. And I was zoned in on him. And then somebody came by and was like, hey, stop. He had a radio. And he's like, stop firing. Don't fire. Don't fire. Those are friendlies on the other side shooting at bad guys. And the rounds are going past them and impacting on us. So I was like, thank God I didn't shoot that guy.
Jeez.
He just went out to take his morning dump. And
what a horrible time.
Yeah, I'd have got him too. I was on him good. Man,
that's crazy. Did you have any like interaction with enemy personnel out there?
A lot of POWs, but I didn't like have to deal with them at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next day we hit a tree grove outside of Kuwait City, and they had pretty much cleared out of there.
Okay.
But it wasn't cleared, so we had to go into all the bunkers and clear them. So it was a tree grove, about 8 feet deep, these ditches, and they had bunkers built into the side of the tree grove. And you had to go into each bunker and clear them. And the most exciting clearing, so I was clearing one of them, and it felt like I was walking on boulders. And it's dark. You got your little angle head flashlight, and and I had a 45. So we had just got rid of the 45. We were carrying 9 mils, but we had 2 corpsmen come from augmentees from Houston, from a hospital. And they came with 45s.
Nice.
So I took their 245s. They got issued 9 mils. I took their 245s. I had me a 245 gunslinger thing going on. I only had like 2 magazines, but
hey, whatever.
Yeah, you don't think that far down the road. And so I'm inside of there, and I shine the flashlight on the floor, and it's the bottom half of those Soviet grenades that you have to screw together.
Oh, okay.
So you know how they come in 2 separate boxes?
Yeah.
So you have the grenades in one box, and you have the fuse system in another.
Yeah.
And you open them like a old can of Spam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had dumped them all out on the ground, and they were screwing them together. And I'm in the bunker, crunched down, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm standing on, and they're all kind of half put together. Some are put together, some are not.
Yeah, that's not sketchy at all. Jeez.
Yeah, that was the adventure.
Oh, man. So there was like an actual threat that there could have been somebody in there. It wasn't like you were coming up to like a...
Yeah, no, we thought it was clear.
Yeah, okay. You were just ensuring that it was.
Yeah, because there were still people shooting all over the place.
Yeah.
And then we went into Kuwait City. I got to be on the escort crew. Our interpreter was from Kuwait City.
Okay.
He was a Kuwaiti lieutenant, and he wanted to go check on his house.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to go into the city, and there were still people shooting, but I'm not sure if it was good guys or bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into the city, and we went to his house, and they had ransacked his house. They had taken every piece of anything of value they had ripped out of the city.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I remember my dad came back with 2 foosball tables. He brought back. He said they went to. They did something. There was like a warehouse full of shit that Saddam had stolen, and they were like, "Dude, like this is we don't even know where this stuff goes. Like we can't. They're just not going to give it back to him. I don't know." He got 2 foosball. He still has one of them. We still play.
That's
when
awesome.
I go home. The other one he sold. I remember he sold it when he came back. It's a really nice foosball table too. He started playing foosball in Germany, when he was in the Army.
Yeah.
So when you came in, you still had guys from Vietnam.
Yeah.
That had served in Vietnam. That was like your senior leadership at that point.
Yeah.
So how did you feel? Did you feel pretty comfortable with their experience and their knowledge, and them taking you over to Iraq? And you think that translated well, or to Kuwait and Saudi Arabia?
I think so. Only because we idolized all the Vietnam guys.
Yeah.
They were we'd go to prayer breakfasts of World War II veterans. I got to go to a breakfast with Mitchell Page, Medal of Honor recipient.
Okay.
Guadalcanal. So we had World War II guys come visit us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some Korea guys. But a lot of your senior leadership were Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
So, First Sergeant Major, they were all, and we had a staff sergeant that was a Vietnam vet. He was one of the platoon sergeants in the company. So, but we kind of looked up to those guys. They were the guys. So
They'd already been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of how guys are, kind of now. Not necessarily, maybe not looking up as much as, I don't know. It seems like there's just so few combat deployments now that when someone's been, you're like, oh shit. Like the new guys are like, oh man, even me when I came in, I was a mechanic, and I was like, oh, I knew my neighbor had been to combat or whatever. I'm just like, that's crazy, man. I wonder what that's like. It's still in my mind, I'm in the Marines, but I'm not. That's a different world. The infantry's a different world, or combat arms is a different world for me, or at least it seemed like it was to me. So, so you come back from Desert Storm, right? So that lasted what? It was like a week or two for the actual fighting, right? Before
the
it was
fighting
declared.
only lasted 2 weeks.
How long were you there after that?
Oh man, they got us out of there quick. I think we were there maybe 3 or 4 weeks after. So after we left from Kuwait City,
were you there when all the Kuwaitis came out and they were celebrating and stuff like that? That you guys had, saved them from the Iraqi invasion?
When we got to go into the city, we were the only Americans in the city.
Oh, okay.
Escorting this guy, and there were, there was a couple vehicles but there were Kuwaiti troops driving up and down the highway. And there was tanks it looked like something out of a video game. There was tanks up on the median and the freeway and all kinds of crazy stuff. But we go down there, and there's Kuwaiti troops driving up and down the highway in their M113s that we had given them years before.
Okay.
Flying the flag, just like in the newsreels. It was pretty surreal. And then our radio man got struck by lightning. But
oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy crap.
So the symbol for 3-9 is a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
It's a 3 with a lightning bolt 9, right? Striking 3-9. And so I think it was the arrow. He's on there, and the antenna got struck, and it went through the radio and zapped him. Didn't kill him or nothing.
Yeah.
But then our radio guy on our end was like, no one leaves striking 3-9 alive. Because, Lance Corporal with the radio was dangerous, so.
Yeah, definitely.
He just had to say something funny.
When you got back from Desert Storm, then what was the next step? Did you stay with 3-9, or did you move along to a different unit?
So yeah, we got back, and I re-enlisted to go to Edson Range.
Okay.
So I went to Edson Range. I was a coach for about a year for recruits.
Yeah.
And then I went to PMI school, and I was a PMI for another couple years. I think a year and a half, 2 years.
How'd you like that?
That was great.
I always thought that would have been a cool job. That would have been a nice, if you don't like your job, that's a nice, or you like it but you're kind of tired of it, you want to break from it. That seems like a nice little break. 2 years at the range.
Oh yeah, it's great. Being a coach is great. You got your couple targets, 5 targets, whatever. Mm-hmm. Teach all these kids how to shoot. Work well with them. You don't have to be a drill instructor because you're an instructor. You're not in that realm.
Yeah.
So you're just teaching how to shoot. And the more effort you put into those guys, the better they do.
Yeah.
And then you do good at that, you get to be a PMI, and then you have a whole platoon that you train.
Yeah.
And
I still remember my PMI, yeah, from Bootcamp.
Yeah. Well, you remember Luna? I was his PMI in Bootcamp.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. So you were at the range for 2 years. Were you ever on any like shooting teams or anything like that?
I did 1 year. Well, when I was in 2-7, I was with the 7th Marine shooting team.
Okay.
But I didn't medal or anything. And then when I was at Edson Range, I shot for the team, but I never made the actual team.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
I feel like that was... I mean, because before I joined the military, I used to read books and stuff like that about the military. My dad was in the Army, so I was that's just what I did. I read books about the military and watched movies about it.
Yeah.
But it seems like stuff like the shooting team was more popular back in the, 90s and before than it is like nowadays. Like nowadays, there's a shooting team out there, but it's not like people aren't striving to go join the shooting team. And I feel like back then it seemed like it was more... I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. It was the thing.
Yeah.
Like when I shot with 7th Marines for their shooting team, I didn't medal, but I got to shoot with the team.
Yeah. And that was just a big deal in itself.
Yeah, you were kind of special. You were on the shooting team.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like doing Super Squad.
Okay.
When you do Super Squad, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Again, I don't think it is as much anymore like it used to be. I think it's still kind of a big deal, but I don't think it's as celebrated now.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know. You kind of fall off of that as you go up the chain.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You can't really trace that, and you don't have the time.
Yeah, because you're setting up Super Squad.
Yeah, you're running it.
Yeah, you're getting the contractors, and you're getting everybody else all in place. And,
yeah.
But
the shooting team was a big deal back then, and it was hard, man. I trained when I was at Edson Range. I trained. You'd get done with your training part for the recruits, and you'd have like a 4-hour window before they'd come back from chow in the evening. So you'd be done, say, 1400 with your part. You give them back to the drill instructors, and you'd have that window before they came back from evening chow. And then you'd have them in the evening. You could go down to the barracks and do some more extra work with them.
Yeah, classes and stuff.
But I trained during that 4-hour window. I'd dry fire and go through the drills. But even with that, I couldn't keep up with some of the guys that were on the shooting team.
Some guys just have this natural ability. It's just weird. When I first joined, there was a kid in my platoon, and I was motor T. And while he was out at, he was in Oki. His first unit was in Oki. He was on the shooting team out there, and he averaged like a 345. Out of 350 on the range.
Oh, yeah.
And this is like, when he was telling me this, I'm like, that's crazy, dude. Like, dropping 5 rounds out of the entire course of fire, or 5 points, not even 5 rounds, 5 points. Like, I don't know. And that's your average. Like, he shot, I think his highest he said he shot was like 347 or 348, something like that.
Yeah, that was the thing.
So or was it 240? It was 350, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 350. I was at my best ever was 347.
Okay, wow.
My average was in the 340s.
Yeah.
If you didn't shoot a 340 or above...
Yeah, it was like you're not even trying
Yeah,
out.
You weren't even getting considered.
You were shooting M16s then as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, A2s came out. Yeah, A2s.
Okay.
So, yeah, with the A1, I shot the A1 in the Army. And it was just as good a weapon. It was not a bad weapon.
There's really not a lot of differences. There's some little differences.
Yeah, sight adjustments.
Sight adjustments, and I think the weapon is built a little looser now, so that it can still operate when it's dirty and stuff. I think so. Like when the first iteration of and this is, I could be wrong again, but I think like in Vietnam and stuff when the M16 first came out and they started issuing them. Part of it was that they were built so well. They were just tightly built because it was like so machined correctly that any kind of dirt and stuff in there was you always hear about them jamming and they'd always have to be cleaned, and that was part of the reason. So now you feel them like you can kind of wiggle them like they feel like they're loose, and I think that's part of the design so that it can operate better.
It may be. I don't know enough about them. I know that they.
Yeah, I'm not a big gun guy. They
changed the gas system. They added the forward assist because that's one of the problems that the M16 have. The bolt wouldn't always go home.
Okay.
Because your magazines get old or it gets dirty.
Yeah.
And the bolt doesn't go home. Well, now you got no way of getting the bolt home because there was no forward assist on the initial. But yeah, the only difference between the first ones, the ones I shot in the Army, and the ones when I came in the Marine Corps, they had the A2 already, was the sight system.
Okay.
You didn't have to use a round to adjust the windage and elevation. It had the knobs.
So you had to use a round to adjust anything on it?
Yeah, on the old ones, you had to adjust it with the tip of a round.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, kind of a pain in the butt. I mean, if you had your stuff together, you're good. But if you pick up some other weapon and you want to zero it, you got to go through the whole pushing in the push pin thing.
And the new one, I think the only part you really adjust with a round is the front sight post, right? To raise and lower the front sight post.
Yep.
But they make a tool for that. But so you were at the range for 2 years. Where'd you go from there?
Let's see. Where did I go from there?
Were you still a sergeant?
Yeah, so I was a sergeant from the...
Had you gone to any kind of like schools or any kind of like advanced schooling or...
Yeah,
were there a lot of schooling opportunities for...
Not as many as there is now.
Okay.
And people could get out of going to school. So they used to have what was called NCO school, and that was corporals and sergeants. And it was kind of like corporal's course, sergeant's course, but it was just one school.
Mm-hmm.
You went to NCO school. That was a great school. I went to that school in Okinawa. I was one of the few corporals to get to go. So, but you didn't have to work that hard to go to school because a lot of people didn't want to go.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was kind of like staying in the grunts. Back then, staying in the infantry was easy. Everybody wanted to go to MSG duty or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to stay in the infantry. So if you wanted to stay in the infantry, you could just re-enlist and go to another infantry unit.
And that's what you wanted to do?
And that's what I did. I think I was in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's just... The life sucks. I won't say it sucks, but it can be grinding, and
Yeah, you can get worn out from putting your stuff together.
But it's also like fulfilling. I like going out to the field and having a good field op and coming back from it and being like, man, that was a good time. Like, not only did we do well, but like, you're with all your homies, and you're just bullshitting. And
and there was nothing else. It wasn't like you had your phone or a computer or internet or none of that. It was like going camping and getting paid for it.
What rank were you when you got a car?
I bought a car when I went on leave after boot camp from my dad.
Oh, really?
But I didn't have it until 6 or 7 months later. So my wife drove out in that car. So I had that car 6 or 7 months later. Because
ride sharing was a lot bigger on base back then, right?
Oh, yeah.
They'd have like the little, almost like bus stops, but it was like, hey, pick a dude up, kind of deal.
Yep. Yeah, you
right by the gate.
Yeah, take care of your fellow Marine, and they'd have things like that up there. There was a great business opportunity. If you wanted to give people rides to San Diego, you could pick them up at the E Club at SOI, and they'd pay $20 a head or whatever. And I had a big Buick.
Yeah.
So I could fit 5 guys in there, $20 a head, and gas was like, I don't know, $1 a gallon, 79 cents a gallon at some of the stations. So you could give everybody a ride to San Diego. It was totally illegal. You weren't allowed to do that, but give everybody a ride to San Diego, fill up your car with gas, drive back, pick up another bunch.
You were the first Uber.
Yeah, it was kind of like, you just had to know where to go to pick people up.
Yeah, that's funny. So you came back, or so you got done with, you said you got done with PMI, and then what unit did you go to?
I went to 2-9.
And where were they out of?
2-9 was at San Mateo again.
Oh, okay.
So, right before the Gulf War, 7th Marines moved to 29 Palms.
Mm-hmm.
And then 5th Marines moved to Mateo, and 2-9 was there. So when I came back from the war, I was in 3-9, and we went to Margarita. And then I went to Edson Range. And then I went back to Mateo to 2-9.
Okay.
And they had just got back from Somalia.
Oh, okay.
So they just got back from the Somalia deal.
Was this on like one of those UN peacekeeping missions, or was it during the actual like Black Hawk Down like time frame?
Yeah, during that time frame.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so they had got back from that. And then soon after, within that year, we changed colors to 2-4.
Okay.
So 2-9 was disbanded, and we became 2-4. And then we did a couple deployments, like UDPs and MUs. Did a couple of those things with them.
What MUs did you do? Like the 11th, 13th kind of deal, or?
Yeah, all the ones out of San Diego. What is it?
Your normal MUs, Where did you? What was your favorite place to go? You've been all over the Pacific, apparently. So, what's your favorite port?
Oh man, that's tough. They're all
That
good.
is tough, right?
I mean, Okie's great because it's kind of like the States. I mean, everybody drives on the wrong side of the road and all that. But I like Japanese stuff. And then Fuji, Japan, is all really good because you can catch the train there and go to Tokyo, Yokosuka, all those places and really see some culture.
Did you tour the battlefields and stuff while you were in Oki?
Yeah, a couple times. They're a good time. It's kind of weird because there's buildings built, and so you look at the map and you're like, oh, this is that, but now there's a whole neighborhood there.
Yeah, so you kind of have to imagine what it would look like. Yeah,
and they've leveled ground and stuff. Tell you what's cool though, I went to Iwo Jima twice.
I never got to go.
Oh man,
we floated by it one time. We could see it off the side of the ship, and we didn't. They sent a few people to it, and that was it.
If you ever get a chance to take one of those tours, it's well worth it.
Yeah.
I got 2 opportunities. One, we did like a little escort thing, and that was kind of cool. You get to walk around. But the best one, we went, our lieutenant, our company commander, he got all the NCOs, and we all had to study a different unit. And then he chose from our book report who got to go to Iwo Jima, and we had to actually follow our unit's footsteps.
Oh, that's
kind of like a PME.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. There was like 10 of us. We got to go in caves that they had just opened. They're still opening up caves.
Yeah.
We buried all those guys in there. And they'd open up a cave, and they'd say we couldn't go in there. And, of course, we'd go in there. And there was stuff that hadn't been seen in 70 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Vertebrae and, weaponry.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, human remains, little, medicine bottles, and really cool stuff. And then you can go all over. We went all over the island.
Man, what a crazy battle that would have been.
Oh yeah, I couldn't have imagined.
I mean, that's a pure just slugfest for 2 months almost.
Yeah,
I think is what it ended up being.
Just creeping around up there, and if you look at it now, it's there's vegetation all over.
Yeah.
So we'd have photographs, and we'd try to follow. You can't actually follow the unit's footprints because there's vegetation there now that was all blown off the island.
Yeah.
Before.
There's probably a lot of UXO and stuff at that point still too.
Oh yeah, there's some caves that we went in and had mortar rounds still in the cases or in the crates, but they were all like they had like a green, looked like something out of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh really?
Like a green sparkliness on them, and one of the guys that's there was like, "Hey, don't go near that. That's the." Whatever sulfur escaping or whatever it was, I don't know what.
Like the explosive leaking out of it, kind of.
Yeah, because it's all volcanic caves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I never really paid that much attention to it. I figured if I don't touch it, I'll be okay.
What was it like to hike to the top of Mount Suribachi?
It's well, it's pretty cool actually. Going up there is not that interesting because they got a road now.
Yeah.
So you just kind of follow the road, but it is kind of heart wrenching when you get to the top. Anybody that's really like totally indoctrinated in love of foreign country, that really gets into the history and stuff, then that's moving.
Yeah, I would have loved to have. So we had, oh my God, I'm gonna get mad when I tell this story. You might not even believe it. I don't even know. We were on the 11th MEU and we were sailing out for our deployment, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to be floating by Iwo Jima. Like, you're going to be able to see it." And they're like, hey, they're going to, kind of what you did, they're going to take some people ashore to let them, go experience it. And so pick somebody. Every section, pick people that you think should be able to go, and then the leadership will, pare that down to how many seats they actually have. And you remember Flores, Sergeant Flores.
Yeah.
I put his name up because I was like, dude, he's done so much comm stuff. Like, he's like the best radio operator I've had, and all this stuff. And the command element, because we were attached to the command element at the time, they sent some PFC kid out, and they're like, no, take care of the junior Marines. And I'm like, dude, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
But a junior Marine's going to have way more opportunities to go and do something like this. Like, I'm a staff sergeant at this point. I've never been. Like, I wanted to go, but I can't put myself up, obviously. But But I'm like, I thought that was kind of, okay, whatever. Okay, I get it. Take care of the junior Marines, whatever. So the 11th MU command element and all these people send a whole group of people ashore. And this is, when did we leave? we left there like August, September. This might have been like September, October, something like that. And I guess these dudes went ashore, and it's obviously hot and humid. It's South Pacific. And there was just so many people falling out, hiking to the top of Suribachi that they didn't even go all the way to the top. They stopped it. And they were like, because one of the corpsmen ended up falling out as well. And they were like, hey, we got to turn around. We're not going any farther. There's already like 5 heat cases, and including one of the corpsmen.
Man.
And I was like, and when they came back, and they were like, yeah, we didn't even get to go to the top because these people fell out, including the kid that we had sent. I was fucking livid. I was like, that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you fucking people fell out just hiking to the top with day packs and like water swords. Like dudes fought up this mountain, and you can't walk up it with a camelback on your back and a backpack with snacks in it. Get the fuck out of here.
That is so embarrassing.
How fucked up is that?
Yeah, that is terrible.
That's why I asked you, like, what was the hike like? Was it actually bad? Like, is it a long movement to the like 2 miles or something?
I mean, I'm definitely not in the shape I was then, but it wasn't bad. It's a road. You just walk up the road.
That's what I'm saying.
You just walk up the road. It's not.
There were many pissed off Marines on that ship when these dudes came back. There were pissed off dudes on the trip. The dudes that were like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, you guys want to fall out, you do that down there. I'm going to the top.
Yeah, the Sergeant Major and CO, Sergeant Major Black, who's the commandant, or the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was one of them, like, no, we're done, turn around, we're going back. And I was just, even on the ship, when people came back and told me that, I was like, I cannot believe that. So that's an awesome opportunity you had. I'm super jealous. I had a buddy who was stationed in Oki who got promoted on top of Mount Suribachi.
Oh, that's got to be incredible.
And I was like, dude, that would have been awesome. Then he went back to Oki and got knocked down because he got in trouble.
Oh. Yeah, because Okinawa is not as much fun.
Yeah, but the to get promoted up there would have been, I don't know, I think that would have been a super special kind of thing. Like you said, you have to kind of be into the history of it. And
yeah,
I was a military kid, so I'm obviously into it. I'm still, talking to people about it and stuff. So
well, yeah, that's a thing that you have to be the kind of guy that gets choked up when the national anthem plays.
Oh yeah,
that kind of thing. If you're that kind of guy that really is into it and thoroughly indoctrinated and love of Corps and country, then that stuff matters. And you look for those opportunities to get promoted at the top of Mount Suribachi or just to go there.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, just the opportunity to have gone there would have been, it would have been great.
Well, there's definitely tours. Another good place is Saipan.
Yeah?
Yeah, they never let them, well, I don't know what it is now, but back when, I didn't get to go there. Same thing, other people got to go ashore.
Mm-hmm.
But the guys were telling me when they came back that I guess the island of Saipan didn't let the Japanese come back and clean up. And so they were able to go to bunker sites and climb on tanks and down zeros and all kinds of stuff. They're just sitting out there in the jungle rotting.
Isn't that crazy?
And they're like, yeah, you guys are not coming back ever again.
The scars left by mankind, on Earth, a crash plane in the middle of a jungle.
Yeah. It's like a movie,
It'd be super interesting to go to all these, like Guadalcanal would be cool to go see. Like,
oh yeah.
Especially if you're a diver, and you can actually go dive and see some of the wreckage and stuff underneath around all these, major, like where Midway was, and they're like, there was fights out there and stuff. Like, I think anything like that would have been super awesome to be able to do. But, so you did the Muse, you did like UDP. How many countries do you think you've been to?
I actually counted them one time because I was going to do the whole jacket with the flags thing.
Oh man, yeah.
I
got a buddy who did that.
I want to do it.
Got to get around to it.
I'm the king of procrastinators.
Yeah, I feel you.
So, but yeah, I counted them, but I don't remember now.
More than 30, you think?
Maybe not quite 30.
Pretty
somewhere
close.
In there.
Yeah.
And then
you hit a lot on a Mew. Like if you're on a Mew, some Mews you might. Some don't go anywhere. They go sit and cut gator squares out in the, Middle East, or in some.
Yeah, if you get lucky.
Some get to hit up ports left and right.
Yeah, and it's good too, man. If you get out there, because it's not long enough to, you really have to plan your time.
Yeah.
If you're just the idiot drunk that goes and gets drunk, which I like doing, but I also want to see something while I'm there.
Yeah.
Like Hong Kong. We went to
Hong
Hong
Kong's
Kong.
great, isn't it?
Before it was Chinese.
Oh, okay.
So it was still British.
Huh.
And
I wonder what that was like.
It was cool, man.
Did you go to it after the Chinese had taken it back over?
No,
also?
I haven't been
back.
back.
I wish you could compare it.
Yeah, because I went before. But you could buy the T-shirts.
Yeah.
So I think it was 95 or 6 or somewhere in there that went to Hong Kong. And you could buy the T-shirts that had a half British flag, half Chinese flag, and a little Chinese guy painting the Chinese flag over the British flag.
Oh, really?
It was kind of like right before the turnover.
Yeah. And now they're fighting that all.
Yeah, now
again.
they're...
Yeah.
Yep.
That's crazy. So, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, so you go there and you plan, they're like, hey, I want to see, I want to take a couple of bus tours. You kind of plan it out.
Yeah.
So that you don't just waste your first 2 days. You find the first 2 bars and that's it.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of guys do that. You see guys that are drunk and puking within like 2 hours of getting off ship. You're like, what the hell, man? Like, you just...
Yeah.
Well, that's one whole day now that's ruined. Like, because dudes will do it in the middle of the day. They'll get super hammered and they can't do anything for the rest of the day.
Yeah, you got to plan your time. I mean, I learned that the hard way, just like everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, all right, now I wasted the first day. I spend the morning of the second day trying to recover so I can get back out and actually go see Jackie Chan's house or, where Bruce Lee trained at or,
that's cool.
Whatever else was there in Hong Kong to see.
Yeah, I used to like to walk around in these like just different neighborhoods. And it's not like neighborhoods, but like different areas, not necessarily like Kwai Fong where all the partying is happening at.
Yeah.
But I was like we stayed in Kowloon, which was across the waterway.
I think that's where our bus tour took us.
Yeah.
Kowloon. I think that's where one of those guys is from, Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee or one of those guys. They had a house up there.
Probably Bruce Lee. I think there's a statue of Bruce Lee down by the waterway.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that our bus driver, our bus tour lady, was really explicit to let us know this is not his house. It is a house that he owns. She really went into detail. That's one of the few things I remember. They served beer on that
nice
bus trip, which was awesome, except now I don't remember the bus trip except for those little pieces.
Little pieces here and there.
Yep.
Yeah. No, yeah, the Mew sucks. Being on ship sucks. But you do get to go do some cool stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely...
Ship life is miserable, but... What ranks were you when you were on ship?
First time I was on ship, I think it was a corporal.
Okay.
Or maybe I had just got promoted to sergeant.
Was that a little better? Living as a sergeant during that time on ship? Or was it just still shitty?
No, it was still... It was a Bella Wood. So you were still... The Bella Wood is just, berthing areas. This strictly for transport. You know? So you had like a little locker, maybe twice as big as a shoebox or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And if you needed anything else, you had to go to the sea bag locker and dig through 500 sea bags, find yours.
Oh, you didn't have the coffin racks?
No, there was no coffin racks back then. There were those little strap things.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just got in, and they were 5 high, and God help you if the guy on the 5th rack got sick because it would hit all the racks on the way down.
Oh man, that's some shit you see when you watch World War II movies. The dude's climbing up the chained up racks up the top.
Yeah, where do you put all your stuff?
Playing cards and shit in there. Yeah, I complained about it, and we had the gear locker, but we also had the coffin rack where for those that don't know what it is, that's where the bed lifts up and underneath it there's some storage space, but not much, but
you can live out of it.
Yeah, you can. It's like living out of 2 suitcases.
Yeah.
Kinda. It's about the same amount of room and stuff. So, how did you do anything? Is there anything of note that you want to talk about between like 95 and right before September 11th?
Let's see, what did we do? I went to 2-9. We turned over to 2-4. Did some deployments with them. A couple UDPs, couple MUs. Then I went to the drill field. From
San Diego
2-4.
or Paris Island?
San Diego.
Okay. What was it like going back? Did you volunteer to go back and be a drill instructor?
Yeah. So, I didn't think I had the capabilities to be a recruiter.
Yeah.
And there was always that big recruiter drill instructor competition.
Yeah, who works more?
Yeah, I think it's probably equal in the work, but I would have to say from my experience, being a recruiter, I thought at the time, it may not be, I could be wrong, I was never a recruiter, it appeared to be a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be out in the world and deal with people.
Yeah.
Whereas,
you have to sell this, organization where we're going to take all your rights from you.
Yeah, you have to sell a product that is a great product.
Yeah.
But no one knows it's a great product until they've experienced it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I think
it looks shitty at, from the outside looking in.
Yeah, it's like a parent giving a teenager advice. The parent knows that the choices that they're offering to their teenager are the better choices.
Yeah.
But the teenager can't see it because they don't have the experience.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I saw recruiting duty. I was like, I'm going to try to sell this great thing that I know is the savior of my life to people that have no clue.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being a car guy trying to talk about a particular model of car to people that don't care.
Yeah.
So I went to the drill field instead.
What company were you in?
I was in Echo Company. So good times. Drill field was next to combat. Probably some of the best time you can have in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Very rewarding if you're into it.
Yeah.
Some people just hate recruits and just want to torture guys, and that's cool. That's your thing. But but I was more like, hey, I want to produce the best product ever. I want these recruits to live here. So I was really into it.
Yeah.
So it's very rewarding when they're successful.
What kind of rules were implemented on you as a drill instructor at that point? Because now they have like timesheet. Like you can only IT a guy you're only supposed to be able to IT a guy for a certain amount of time. There's so many things that are happening now. Like just the other day, there's a bunch of dudes at San Diego getting in trouble. One of the complaints I said saw the drill instructor was making the recruits eat pine cones. Stuff like that. And then you hear about the dude at Paris Island where he put the kid in the dryer. And obviously that's against the rules.
Yeah, that was always against the rules.
That's always against the rules. But were the rules like enforced real hard on drill instructors back then? Because you came up, you were a drill instructor. I think from people that I know that are DIs, especially ones that were back in the day, they'll tell you that the Marine Corps drill instructor really changed after the whole Paris Island, Ribbon Creek incident, and all the recruits were killed there. That kind of changed a lot of the techniques and stuff that the Marine drill instructors were using. So, which was way before your time. That was
thank God.
Like 30 years before 40 years before you were
1957, I think.
Yeah, so like from that time where we have a bunch of recruits marching out into the into the swamp and they drown, to nowadays we have dudes getting in trouble for making their recruits eat pine cones. What kind of crazy stuff was going on down at the drill field that you can disclose without?
Well, I think the like limitations for prosecution,
the statute of limitations,
statute of limitations is over. But I had really good leadership prior to.
Yeah.
So I had a really good platoon sergeant, guy from India, who immigrated to He's got a long story. I'll tell you one of these days. He went to Okinawa. Trained under the master of Goju-Ryu.
Oh, okay.
He ran away as a kid, like 16, but he ended up joining the Marine Corps after he had his master's degree in human psychology as a private rifleman.
Nice.
But he was really good. He was a really good leader, and so before I went to the drill field, I was lucky enough to have guys like that to tell me, "Hey, you don't have to violate the SOP." In order to make good recruits. And you can torment the hell out of a person. You can break somebody psychologically and never break a rule. You can dance close to the edge of the rules, but you don't have to break them.
Yeah.
So the rules were relatively the same. I think I went there in 97. I left in 2001. And profanity was... You weren't supposed to use profanity. And the tagline was, a person who cannot express themselves without using profanity has proven themselves unable to express themselves in a manner which is acceptable to society or acceptable in civilized society or something.
Guys, just right out of the book? Are you remembering?
Yeah, I just remembered it was up there. It was in the it was in the SOP.
I thought that was the weirdest thing because I went to Bootcamp in 2006 and people were like, yeah, they're not supposed to cuss. Obviously, people still did.
Yeah, and then later on, I guess they lifted that a little bit, some profanity.
It's just weird that that's even banned.
Yeah, it's just weird. But
you're in an organization, you're training dudes to go kill people, and you're worried about like offending somebody with some words. Like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, it reminds me of Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
His tagline where he says, I'm asking commander will ask men to kill each other, but won't let them write fuck on his aircraft.
Yeah.
And I understand the premise behind it. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing.
My dad used to tell me that when I was a kid, like a man that uses cuss words their vocabulary is too small, or something like that. Yeah. It was something along those lines. So.
Yeah, if you want to be taken seriously, learn to articulate yourself with another adjective besides fuck.
Yeah. I mean, it's so handy though.
Yes, it is. And it's a habitual word.
Yeah. It definitely is. Definitely is that. So how long were you like a green belt? Like what was that? So first off, going back through DI school is almost like going through boot camp again, right?
Yeah, DI school definitely sucks sweaty monkey balls. And it did then, and it probably does now, and it probably will forever.
I was kicking around the idea of going to be a drill instructor in 2011 when I was in Afghanistan. I was like, maybe when I come back. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get promoted. You never know. You're always like, I might as well do something to help myself out. And then I came back, and like a week after I got back, one of my best friends while I was in went to DI school. And I remember texting him, and he's just like, fuck this place, man. He's like, dude. Like, I remember texting him one time, like, hey, how you doing? How's it going down there? And he's like, I want a pistol and a bottle of whiskey so I can burn this fucking bitch down or something like that. And I'm just like, all right, cool, dude.
Yeah, that was definitely the...
Like, I don't think I'm going to do that now.
Well, here's the thing. So, you go to DI school, and normally, if back then, you had to apply to be a drill instructor, and you had to kind of go through the screening process or whatever, and I'm sure it's like that now. But you go from being the company golden child. So, you're one of 3... sergeants or staff sergeants or whatever in the company that are the golden child. You're like the hero. And then you go to DI school and you're just another schmuck. And guess who else is there with you? Everybody else is hero.
Yeah.
Everybody else is golden child.
So this is where like your best dudes were going to be DIs?
Not all of them. Some of them were, by circumstance, chance or whatever, they were the mediocre performers. But the majority of the people
were those the recruiters? No, I'm just playing.
No, actually,
just throwing some shade.
Yeah, no, actually, the recruiters they lived across the barracks from us, and they barbecued and stuff. And we pressed Charlies, and
miserable.
Yeah, and learned how to repeat the drill manual verbatim.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so you're competing with a bunch of other guys that are supposedly the golden children of the company. And some of them aren't. Some of us were just mediocre, average guys. We thought we were special, but we were only special because the rest of the company sucked.
Yeah.
So when we get there to DI school, you realize that you're not as special as you thought you were. Your competition just wasn't that good. And now your competition is that good. And you're being treated like a recruit. So yeah, I went from being... in charge of 54 guys, and I basically ran my own show to being another schmuck. And, so that was kind of a shocker.
Yeah.
I did do a similar incident that it reminded me of. I was fapped out to the MPs for 6 months when I was with 2-7.
Okay.
During my time in 2-7. And the same type of, you talk about the different worlds of the infantry and different parts of the Marine Corps. So I was a corporal, and I had 30 people. I was not a platoon sergeant, but I was the next guy. So we only had like one sergeant, me, and another corporal. And we had like 30 guys in the platoon. So I was in charge. And when I went to be fapped out to the MPs, I was now the lowest guy on the totem pole because everybody there was a sergeant or a staff sergeant. And that was a kind of a culture shock.
Yeah.
I went from being like a super guy in charge of everything to being the guy that was out there with a sling blade cutting the grass in front of PMO.
Yeah, that makes you feel like you definitely took a step back in your career. Like, what the fuck, man? What am I doing?
Yeah, I almost asked to be taken off of that FAP, but there was another guy there with me. Another guy had come from the grunts, and he said, this is a humbling experience for you. Real smart guy. He was a young corporal. He's like, this is a humbling experience for you.
Uh-huh.
And if you can go through this, you're going to learn so much from being on this FAP that you can use later on in your career. And I never talked to the guy again after that. But
Was he right?
Yeah, he was absolutely right.
What'd you learn?
All the cool stuff, like how to use the PR-24, you know.
What's that? What's a PR-24?
It's the nightstick with a handle.
Oh,
looks like a tomahawk.
Oh, okay.
So you only got to use a regular nightstick at first until you got qualified with the PR-24, because you can actually shatter bones and really hurt somebody with the PR-24.
So you're talking about, you had like a billy club, basically.
Yeah, it's a billy club with a handle.
And then you had the PR-24 is the one that has a little hard part that sticks out.
Yep, and you can use it. You can spin it, and it can get up to speed. You can crack somebody's skull. You can kill people with it.
That's crazy.
But you had to get qualified. But dealing with drunks... You know,
going down to the Del Mar E Club.
Going down to the Del Mar E Club. Domestic disturbances. You learn a lot of people skills dealing with, you know, the drunk lieutenant colonel and his wife, and they're going toe to toe. And, you know, here you are, young corporal. Hey, sir, I need you to step over here. And he's like, I'm not going to do what you're going to tell me. And I'm like, hey, sir, I need you to do that, or I'm going to have to put handcuffs on you. And I don't want to do that in front of your wife. And then the wife telling him, you know, and then the drunk gunny, you know, from 2 blocks down coming over to defend the colonel, because that's the colonel that saved his career. And they were drinking together, and now he's there to save him, and he's going to beat up the skinny little 140-pound, you know, MP that's a fap that, I was like, man. But I learned a lot of people skills.
That's funny.
And an immense amount of respect for law enforcement you learn in that.
Oh, I can't, you know, people hate on cops and stuff like that. And, oh, you know, I'm one of those people that reads Facebook comments and stuff. And I'll sit there and, like, read some of this stuff that people write about after a shooting. Like, right now, that cop that shot her neighbor that lived downstairs, she went into the wrong apartment.
Yeah.
You know, she just got convicted of murder and stuff like that. And you go on, and then now one of the main witnesses, he was killed, like, the day after the trial.
Oh, yeah.
So that dude got killed. Yeah, so I don't know. And then all the comments are like, yeah, this is obviously an inside job. The cops are pissed that one of their own got taken down and blah, blah, blah. And people just think that cops are out to, like, hate on the local populace, which some of them probably are. I mean, you know, but look at how many hundreds of thousands of cops are there in the country. The statistics are going to tell you that there's going to be some bad apples within that bunch. Sure. But for the most part, I mean, I can't imagine the stuff your average cop, especially in a city, sees every day.
Oh, yeah.
Every day, in and out, every day. You see the worst of humanity every day.
And every day you're dealing with...
And the best, probably.
Yeah, but every day you're dealing with nonsense. You're dealing with people that are being emotionally irrational, you know, and you're just dealing with it over and over and over. Yeah, cops are going to have... There's going to be a time when a guy has a bad day. But overall, you have to think, you know...
It's a tough gig, man.
Yeah.
I used to want to be a cop. Like, before I joined, I was like, all right, I'm going to join... Like, this is way back in the day. I was like, I'm going to join the Army Rangers, and then I'm going to get out, I'm going to go to the LAPD, and I'm going to be a SWAT team guy, and it'll be awesome.
Yep.
And, you know, when I was in the Marine Corps, I ended up reading Marine Sniper, and I'm like, fuck the Rangers, I'm joining the Marines, you know, and I did that.
That's how it always works. Huh?
And, but I'm, you know, over my years in the Marine Corps, I've just watched this deterioration of, like, respect towards law enforcement and stuff like that. It's like, why the fuck would I want to put myself through that? You know what I'm saying?
I think that's tough on them. You know, OPD doesn't have an age limit, so you can join anytime.
Oh, yeah, and so for anyone's listening, all the coastal cities are almost all of them are hiring. All the police departments are. And Oceanside Police Department is actually I think it's the highest paid police department along the coastline. Yeah. Down south of, basically from Oceanside, which is the northern, you know, most town in San Diego County. The whole way down, I think Oceanside is the highest paid. Some former cop was telling me that.
And they do a good job.
It's a rough gig.
Yeah, I can't. But that's what you learn out there. I couldn't. I wanted to be a cop too. You know, the same thing. Everybody wants to do the right thing and be the good guy.
Yeah.
But
I think if you go with that kind of attitude is the right thing. You know, I'm going into it to do the right thing. I want to be the good guy. I'm trying to help people out. The people that are like coming into it like, I just can't wait to arrest people and doing this. Like, if you have the wrong, I think you have to have the right attitude.
Oh yeah,
you know? And there's
like
those guys
with any
out there.
type of employment, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But you know what killed my desire to be a police officer was being I was a duty NCO in Fuji, Japan. Way back before there were cell phones and cable TV, so all we had was the E Club. I was a duty NCO in Fuji, Japan on New Year's Eve. And dealing with a bunch of drunk, wild people, punching the windows out of the barracks and taking them to the BAS to get stitches. And I was like, this is what it's like being a cop?
Yeah, I think so.
And
I think that's the majority of it. Yeah,
every night it's, foolishness.
People ODing, people shitting on themselves.
Yep.
Like, CSON. CSON's a cop. You remember CSON? He was with me in Assault Delta.
I think so.
He did the company deployment. He did one with Damaro.
Okay,
Him and Damaro were on the same. I think they were on the same Assault. Anyway, he's a cop down in Chula Vista. We're supposed to sit down and do an interview as well. But he's a cop down in Chula Vista, and he told me a couple stories. And that's why I was like, dude, you gotta come on the show, man. Like, you gotta tell me what it's like out there on the streets. Some of the crazy shit you're seeing. Because he was a San Diego City police officer for a while, and now he's in Chula Vista. So I'm like, you got to be seeing all kinds of stuff, especially being down in San Diego for a while as a cop.
Oh, yeah. Especially Chula Vista, because you're down there right on the border.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he moved there because the pay was better. Isn't it weird how that's like a...
Yeah, cities, they make their own pay scale.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be like your cops were like community people. They lived within the community, but now people move because of better pay. I don't know. It's just a weird. To me, that's kind of weird, but I see the reasoning.
I do too. I just don't understand what's the longevity. Because if you leave Oceanside Police Department and you go to say San Diego, you're. Do you take your 401k with you?
I don't know.
How do you future plan?
I got to bring him on and have him talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, that's stuff people want to know.
Yeah, that'd be super. Because there's a lot of guys that get out and go to the police force. So
I tell you a secret that a guy taught me up in San Clemente. He was a retired Marine, and then he went to work for the San Diego Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
And you have to spend, I guess, the first year or some time period you have to work in the jail.
Oh yeah.
And then once you earn your way out of the jail, you get to hit the streets or whatever.
Yeah.
But he said he was getting so much overtime working in the jail that he actually went back to work in the jail. He did some time out on the streets or whatever, and then he went back to working in the jail. And he was able to retire like 5 years early because of the amount of overtime he got.
Wow.
And because he invested well.
Yeah.
He basically took his military retirement and invested it and lived off his sheriff's department pay.
Smart.
But
that's smart.
But yeah, he was able to retire early.
Man, I couldn't imagine working in a jail.
Yeah, I got a buddy who's he was my counterpart when I was on I&I duty. That was his job. He's a lieutenant for the Federal Prison Bureau, and he just retired. And I couldn't imagine.
Yeah,
he had the shoe bomber in his his wing that he was responsible for. So
I remember when I was a kid seeing like Con Air and stuff like that. I was like, that'd be cool, like flying prisoners around. And but like working in an actual jail, Flores was he got out and went to the sheriff's department, and I want to say he was in Boulder. Like he'll hit me up and tell me if I'm right or not, but it's somewhere in that area, and he was doing that for a while, and then I think he wanted to do something else, got out, finished, used his GI Bill, go to school, but now he's actually going through a different police academy to work for a city rather than the county, because the county, like you said, you have to do your time in the jail. Yeah. And I think he's just like, I'm kind of tired of.
Yeah, the jail's got to be tough. That entire line of work is tough, I mean, how you...
Everyone's in a shitty spot. Everyone in jail, like, they're all in, like, a shitty position in their life at that point. So you're...
Yeah, you're not dealing with...
There's some people in there, especially in a jail, there's some people in there that are innocent. They shouldn't even be there.
Yep.
They haven't even got a trial yet. And they're just like, I can't imagine dealing with...
Yeah, I couldn't even. I had one of my nephews went to jail for 7 months. So car accident. His girlfriend is killed in the car accident.
Oh man!
And he's found somehow a little bit liable.
Yeah. So
he had to do 7 months in jail. And the kid is it was a car accident. He wasn't drinking. It wasn't one of those things.
Okay.
But they have to punish somebody.
So he got like a minor like manslaughter charge or something? Yeah,
I don't know what it was, but he did 7 months.
Man.
But the point is, he's like the innocent little quiet guy. He's not a gangster or a hoodlum or a tough guy at all.
What county?
He was in New Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Which is a hellhole to go to jail in, because you got your boatload of criminals that's their thing.
Really? In New Mexico?
Yeah, they have nothing else to do. I mean, You never want to get in a fight with somebody who's got nothing to lose.
That's true.
You know, the guy who his life is going back and forth to jail or prison. And
Yeah.
he's got no future aspirations, and and those are the kind of guys you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And they got nothing to lose.
Man, no way, man. I
Yeah.
couldn't do it. Well, so what'd you do after you got done with your FAP then? Anything between? So what we're talking about is like up until like September 11th, because I want to pre-GWAT and then post-GWAT. We'll talk about that.
Okay, let me take a leak real quick.
Let's pause. I'll grab a beer.
Yeah.
Okay, so where we're at, you finished being an MP. So what were you doing up until let's get up to like September 10th? What were you doing on September 10th?
Oh, okay.
2001.
So I left the drill field and I went to SOI. I went to one of the companies as an instructor at MCT.
Okay. Oh, so you went right from a 1B billet to another?
Yeah, well, it wasn't a B billet back then.
Oh, okay.
And what happened was, towards the end of my time on the drill field, I was sent to do an exchange program with SOI.
Okay.
And I had to write, what we're doing at the depot that doesn't fit, because SOI and the depot are supposed to fit together like gears.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to write, what wasn't, because things change. The SOI will change something, the depot will change something, and all of a sudden they're not matching. So skills that are taught at SOI are supposed to fill in the gap of things that are not taught at MCRD and vice versa. So the regimental commander had been a drill instructor back in the 70s. He was a colonel, but he had been a staff sergeant on the drill field. I forgot his name. And Sergeant Major Green, the former
Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps?
Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, he was my battalion sergeant major. And
I think I have a coin from him.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, was he an arty guy?
I don't remember.
No, it doesn't matter.
I don't remember at all. But he was a great sergeant major on the drill field. I mean, he walked my career. I had some issues, I didn't get in trouble on the drill field, but I had some other issues, and he just kind of put his hand on the thumb on the scale a little bit and pushed things just to keep me on the track until I could get through it.
That's cool.
And I didn't know him from before, and he just took care of his Marines that way. So I did this exchange program where I had to go down there and follow a class. One of my platoons that had just graduated, I followed them through MCT.
What was that like?
Oh, it was awesome.
Really?
It was awesome. Yeah, because the kids the recruits or the Marines, so you go to receiving, and you just kind of stand back. You're not doing anything. You're just watching, and you're watching what the instructors do, and then you kind of try to make sure that MCRD is providing the right stuff. And the recruits the Marines that had been my recruits, they're like, drill instructors are here, and they panic. And I was like, this is awesome. They're definitely scarred.
They're gonna come get us if we fuck up.
Yeah, that's funny because that's what you tell them when you're a hat. Is I'm gonna follow you to MCT. If you fail there, I'm gonna make sure you go home. And you tell them stuff like that. So when you show up,
like, oh shit, it's true.
Yeah, they don't know that. Yeah, the whole thing was a big story, but yeah. So I followed them through. And so I spent the entire time trying to make sure there's little things that don't happen. So MCRD, they built some head facilities up at Range 501. This is back then. Up at Range 501, they built these indoor head facilities. Mm-hmm. So a lot of recruits never get taught, canteen cup hygiene. Field hygiene. They get taught the class, but they never practice it because there's an indoor head with sinks and showers and stuff while they're at that 501 portion. Well, that part of the training curriculum is supposed to already be taken care of because SOI doesn't teach it.
Okay.
So when a guy gets there, they go straight to the field. They need to know how to, hygiene in the field with a canteen cup and, and whatever. So that was my job, was to figure that stuff out.
Okay.
And I was able to figure out some pretty cool stuff. Like that was one of them. The company that resold the boots down at MCRD put these big yellow Vibram Sole tags in the bottom of the boots. So the kids were all cammied up. They're out there, doing the ambush training.
Yeah.
And if you walked up from the back side of the ambush, all you saw was yellow dots.
Oh, from their shoes?
From the bottom of their boots. So, hey, you guys need to change that. Put a black Vibram sole thing. Because you couldn't see them at all. They're all camied up and in the bushes, but you could see a row of yellow dots from the bottom of their feet.
Huh.
Things like that. But I really was worried about letting down the colonel and sergeant major, so I really went overboard on writing my report, And so I got sent back down there with the report because I didn't want to make some kind of, SOI, MCRD competition or drama. They suck.
They're fucking this up. And, they should.
I didn't want any of that. Yeah. I wanted to be able to say, hey, these are some things that we are not doing or that we can do differently that will assist them. And I basically stayed away from what they were doing completely. Little things like, hey...
Because what they're going to do is not going to change anything what you're doing down there, because it's after the fact.
Yeah, because we're first, so we need to be filling in the gaps. And that was kind of what the sergeant major and colonel had told me, like, hey... And the colonel said, when you come back, I want to see what you write before it goes to the presses, before anybody else sees it. So I was really worried about letting them down. Mm-hmm. So I went way overboard, and then he sent me back down to brief the CO of SOI. And now that I can spell a little better and I actually understand grammar, I realize how terrible my writing was. There was probably one word in every sentence misspelled. There was no punctuation at all. But I had to go back down there and brief him and tell me, hey, what I thought. And then he kind of asked for your honest opinion. Hey, what do you see that we're making mistakes? And I gave him a few things that I thought were mistakes that they were making from my perspective. Mm-hmm. And... So, yeah, I guess that's how I ended up back there. I don't know that as a fact, but I went back down to MCRD, did my out processing, and I had orders at SOI.
And then September 11th happened.
So, yeah, I was running Infantry Platoon Sergeant School at the time and Machine Gun Leaders course. And it was like a down week. And we were coming in to, write the classes and... all that stuff, make the tests or whatever we were doing.
Prep for the next class.
Yep. And I was there with a friend of mine, Staff Sergeant Damath, and he's like, son of a bitch, they just crashed in airplanes into the towers. Mm-hmm. So we listened to that on the radio while we worked. And I was there for about another year, maybe 8 months. So then we immediately started training recalled Marines. So all the guys that got called back, we would train gunnies, staff sergeants, guys that got called back.
What kind of training were you doing?
Basic infantry skills, patrolling.
So you're just busting the rust on stuff that they might have... Because these were already all infantrymen, right?
Not all of them, but the majority. Mm. And then we trained some reservists, like bring them up to speed. And they would have to pass the test kind of deal. And
what were you training them for?
They were getting recalled, and I guess they were going to push them over, or they were going to be combat replacements.
So we had already gone into Afghanistan, because the first dudes went into Afghanistan, for those that don't know. I mean, I think we had CIA guys in there within 2 weeks or something like that. But then I think the Marine unit went in December 2001, a couple months after. That's when they pulled, because they were at Liberty Port in Australia, and then pulled out and went into, because was it one of the XO or OPSO at ANGLICO was on that MEU?
Was he? I don't remember.
Was it Bauman?
It could have been.
I could be saying the wrong. I might bleep that out because I don't want to say the wrong name of somebody.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I have to look at my rosters and schedules to figure out who was where when. They all kind of bleed together now.
So obviously, at what point? So right after, okay, what major changes did you see immediate? I'm talking about 2 weeks after September 11th. How within the 2 weeks afterwards were you like, oh shit, this is all changing? Or were there any major changes?
There wasn't. I would have to say there wasn't that big of a change.
No.
The Marine Corps kind of went along.
Yeah. Hey, we're already ready for this.
This is what we've been praying for. Thank God there's a war. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they just went along. And the only thing that I saw was a difference was our our tempo increased because we had platoon sergeant school, infantry platoon sergeant's course, which they call infantry unit leaders course now, or they did when I left. Squad leaders, infantry squad leaders course, basic machine gunner course, which was open to all MOSs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's
cool.
Yeah, we trained 50s, 240s, Mark 19s. Good, everybody's got them.
Yeah, I think Artie had more than an Artie battalion has more than an infantry battalion.
Oh yeah,
which is a lot of people don't realize that
for sure. Yeah, Motor T. A lot of Motor T units have boatloads of that stuff.
Yeah,
so that increased because people actually would go to the courses. So my friend Damath, Staff Sergeant Damath, or Gunny Damath, when he retired, he was the lead guy. He started that course.
Okay,
and I came in after him as a chief instructor only because I was a gunny and he was a staff sergeant. That was the only reason I got to be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
He actually ran it, and he was the spirit behind it. But he had been trying to sell it to units. We could do a course in 5 days. We could take 20 students in 5 days and qualify them with those 3 weapons, and bring them up to what infantry training school standards for a machine gunner. Now, whether they retained that knowledge a week later, I don't know. But
yeah,
on Friday night at 2100, that's when that class would end. And if they didn't pass the test by then, they got sent home as a failure. But he was trying to sell that course, for other units to send more people.
Yeah.
And after 9/11, we didn't have any problem. We had to weed people out.
Okay.
Because MP units, Motor T units, Muse.
I mean, that's what you would expect is people are going to start taking training like that more seriously. Because before it's like, we should send someone to machine gunner school, but we also need a bus driver.
Yes, exactly. Or but we can't afford to lose them for a week. Really? If you got hit by a car, you'd be fine tomorrow.
Yeah.
It would be sad, but the Marine Corps would go on. But yeah, we had to start. So we had to run the infantry side, the advanced machine gun leaders course. Then we'd run the other course simultaneously, and then platoon sergeants for the infantry units. So the only difference was we'd actually fill up the classes because people now they couldn't avoid it.
Yeah. Once you left there, where'd you go?
1-5.
1-5. What year was that? Do you remember?
I think it was 04, 03, late 03, early 04.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the calendar. When I went to 1-5, they had just gotten back from Fallujah 2. And then we went. That would
have been 05.
So, yeah, it was late 04, I think. Maybe it was 05.
Were you in the invasion?
No.
Oh, I thought you were for some reason.
No, yeah, the invasion. I was in. I don't know.
When I say the invasion, I mean of Iraq. For those that don't.
Yeah, the second invasion. No, I wasn't there.
So you were still training. You were still getting guys ready then.
Yeah, I was still in. We one big change. We went up to Victorville. The old Air Force base.
Okay.
And we were training units as they left. So they'd stop there. We'd do a month of training there.
Urban training, right?
Yeah,
and they had a lot of old barracks and old base housing that they were using.
Yeah, it was awesome. You could kick in doors.
I think I remember reading about that.
Break out
multi-story buildings and stuff that they could go through.
Oh, yeah. And you could tear it up because it was all getting torn down anyways.
Yeah.
So there was no rules like, don't break the glass. I mean, you probably try to avoid it because then guys get all cut up and But
if the situation dictates,
it was.
Don't hesitate.
Yeah, we broke a lot of windows just because it was fun.
Yeah, everybody it's like popping the little bubble things on bubble wrap.
It's exactly what it's like.
Might as well break this piece of glass.
Yeah, bubble wrap and windows, and you can't. And as soon as one Marine throws something through a window,
and they don't get in trouble for it.
Yeah, then it becomes a trend.
Yeah, So you get to 1-5, and what was that like? So these guys had just gotten back from, you said, Iraq. So
yeah,
what was the the morale like, and what was kind of like the attitude in the Marine Corps at that time? Because at 04 Iraq is really kicking off. We got some guys in Afghanistan at that point, but it's kind of a small contingent. No one really was thinking about Afghanistan.
Yeah, we're kind of muddling through Afghanistan and fighting in Iraq.
Yeah.
So the company was great. The leadership was great.
Were you a staff sergeant by this time?
No, I was. I I got there on I don't know, early in the week, and I was still a gunny. And Sergeant Major was like, I don't need another gunny. But I had done my research beforehand, so I was like, hey, I know you have a gunny with a bad knee who's probably not going to make this deployment. And just leave me on the list here until you find out whether he's going to get, he's going to make it or not.
Nice.
And,
that's all about making your own destiny right there. Not enough people do that.
The Marine Corps is so good at that. And all you have to do is talk to people.
Yeah.
And, most people are out to help the other guy. There's a few out there that really want to make sure they are the alpha, and they get all the limelight. But most people are out to help the other guy. So sorry.
Yeah, you're all in the fight together.
Yeah, and if I make the guy below me successful, that makes my job easier.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one of the things I hated when I was at SOI. Every time I'd get a course up and running, and it would be like self-sustaining, they'd be like, hey, can you take over this course and get it up and running? I'm like, damn, I just made this one so I don't have to work so hard.
Like, what else is everybody else doing?
This is about the time when you start getting internet you start getting computers and internet at the office. So there was a lot of, like, fuck off time that I wanted to spend surfing this new thing, the internet.
Look at this. I can look up anything I want.
Yeah, and they didn't have filters back then, so there was a lot more stuff you could look up. They told you not to, but you could.
I remember, and those that will know what I'm talking about, the Iraq share drive. Like, you'd go over to Iraq with a blank hard drive. A lot of people would bring, like, the old... And it was when the external hard drive... Some of them had their own plugs, where you have to plug the external hard...
into the wall.
It's like a 0.5 terabyte hard drive that's, like, the size of a book, and you have to plug it in.
Yeah, I still have one. It's like a thesaurus.
Dudes would... Yeah, exactly. Dudes would show up to Iraq, and the first thing they would do is plug into the... what was that called? The share drive. They plug into the share drive and take all the movies. They'd copy all the movies and all the music, because that's what it was. And there was some inappropriate stuff on there.
Definitely inappropriate stuff.
But yeah, that was definitely before. You came. So when you came in, they were using typewriters. Yeah. Then you watch them pull into computers, which on its own is cool. But then computers got the internet.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Man.
I remember my platoon sergeant would make us go and get carbon paper. And he'd tell you, hey, go to, the office supply store, Kmart, whatever was back then, and get a thing of carbon paper. So you could make copies.
So you could do duplicates with your writing.
Two lists with one effort, And then you learned you could steal them from supply, because all the 782 sheets had carbon paper in them. Mm-hmm. So, and you'd be like, hey, go over to supply and tell them to give you some carbon paper. Yeah. And then it went to those, floppy disks or whatever. But yeah, so that was one of the things. So I get there, and the Sergeant Major knew more than I did. He was like, well, you just come back on Wednesday with First Sergeant chevrons on. And I was like, okay. Now I'm going to go spend $40 to put chevrons on my alphas, and I don't even know that I'm going to get promoted or not. But he made sure I got frocked. So I was selected, and he figured that out, in the day and a half after I talked to him, after he sent me home. And so he called me and told me to come back with First Sergeant chevron. So I checked in as a First Sergeant. Nice. So that's when I went to Alpha Company 1-5. And then we did Ramadi. We did 3 other deployments together.
Whoa, let's back up. Let's talk about these. So now you're a First Sergeant. What was that like, taking that step away from being your normal 0369 to being... Was a First Sergeant? It's not 89.99, is it?
Yeah, it was 89.99.
Is it? Okay, I thought I didn't know if it changed when you became a Sergeant Major. I knew Sergeant Majors were 89.99.
I think it was the same. Yeah, I think it was 99.99 at one point or something, and then they changed it because it jacked up the code or whatever.
Yeah. What was that transition from, like, regular, 03 guy to now you're an administrator, of a unit?
So the benefit I had, and I had it easy. A lot of guys, they pick up First Sergeant and they've got to go to, they go from the grunts as being a company gunny to being a First Sergeant at, First Maintenance Battalion.
Yeah, they take them outside of their field, right? They want to give you exposure in other non-combat units.
Yeah, and there's a lot of growth there. So they have to learn an entire different structure and, so But I had it
It's
easy.
a completely different world.
Yeah.
A maintenance battalion is different than an infantry battalion.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it'd be okay to go to Artie. It's kind of the same, but I was lucky. I was first sergeant in infantry battalion. So all I had to do was platoon sergeant stuff, and make sure that things were done right.
Yeah.
So being a first sergeant in the infantry battalion as an infantryman was much easier than I got blessed. However God worked it out. He's like, hey, you're going there.
How long were you there before you found out you guys were going to be deploying again?
Oh, they were already.
So they were already
spooled
working up.
Yeah, they were spooled up to leave already. I think we left 6 weeks later or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some small time period. They were spooled up. We took some pictures on the, company pictures on the side of the hill, and we were gone right away after that.
Did you fly over to Iraq, or did you guys go on a MEU over there?
No, we flew over.
Okay.
Yeah,
and you went to Ramadi then?
Yeah, we flew over, got on 5 tons, and went to Ramadi.
What year was this?
I think it was 2004.
Okay.
I would really have to look at the calendar to remember.
I knew a guy
after Christmas. I know that.
I knew a guy that was in Ramadi in 2004, and he was like, everyone talks about Fallujah. He's like, but Ramadi was super shitty at that time as well, because all the insurgents that didn't stay in the city, when they gave time for people to leave the city, they're like, hey, we're retaking Fallujah. This is your time to leave. And if you stay, you're going to fight. Well, during that time, a lot of the insurgents also left, and he was like, dude, a lot of them came to Ramadi, and so the fighting picked up there at the same time that the fighting picked up in Fallujah as well. So yeah, I never made it out that way. So what was Ramadi like?
Ramadi, it was wild. It was interesting.
I mean, you were in the Gulf War, and you were kind of familiar with the region, or the region a little bit. Yeah. So what was it like coming back for OIF?
Well, so yeah, the Gulf War was like what you thought it would be. It's like in the movies. You're running across the desert, and tanks are shooting at each other, and then you go. Ramadi was urban warfare.
Yeah.
And the bad guys didn't wear uniforms, but I was lucky. I had good platoon sergeants, and I kind of self-created. And Colonel Smith, or Lieutenant Colonel Smith at the time, he was a CO. I don't know what he's doing now, but he's a general, and he was as good then as he is now. He's probably better now.
Does he have like a super serious demeanor?
Texas guy, kind of like a 6-shooter.
Does he have like does he see one of those guys that when he talks, he does that like weird smile thing while he's thinking? The only reason I asked, because I didn't work directly for him, but I met General Smith when I was on my advisor team. He came down. He was in charge of all the advisor teams in Afghanistan. So
it could be
might be the same. We'll look it up later.
He's a lighter guy, maybe 170 pounds,
like a lanky dude.
Tank, Texas, a little shorter. Remembers everybody's name.
That's always good.
Everybody's name.
Complete opposite of me.
Yeah, me too. I went to visit him when I was in Afghanistan. He was over at one of the camps, and when I went to check in on a couple of the ANGLICO teams, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go see Colonel Smith. And I went over to visit him, and he was talking about people from my company when I was a first sergeant that I knew them once he said the name, but if you'd have asked me that person's name 2 minutes before he said it, I wouldn't have known.
Really?
And he was talking about...
Some people have that knack.
Oh, man, he's good.
But kind of need it for that kind of position as well.
Yeah, I was lucky. We went there, Ramadi, about a third of the company had just done the other 2 combat deployments to Iraq. The other 2/3 were either replacements or had come from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So we hit when you hit Ramadi, you just hit the ground running. And then I was really lucky because the company gunny of the company we were relieving in Hurricane Point was a buddy of mine from SOI.
Oh, okay.
So he was able to walk me through all the city. I'd go out on patrol with them during the turnover period. Go on patrol with them. So by the time my platoon sergeants and platoon commanders were familiar with the city, I had already had a grasp on where everything was, and he was able to key us in. Hey, this is a street that they can shoot down. the street is 300 yards long, and they can get a straight shot down this street. So as you drive by, they're going to shoot at you. This is a good place for IEDs because when you turn this corner, you can't be seen by any of the other two outposts. So we had
that actual boots on the ground kind of knowledge you need to see it.
And he was the instructor for infantry squad leaders course. He was a lead instructor for that when I was upstairs at infantry platoon sergeant's course. So we had already worked together. So we had a real good ability to communicate.
That's good. Yeah.
And he was able to hey, you want to? He told me to wear gloves. I wasn't going to wear gloves. Can't feel anything with gloves. Until the first time we had to get into a semi-truck full of dead bodies that were oozing.
Oh, man.
And you get in there.
The first time you had to do it? Like, what are you getting in? What?
So it's funny. So during the turnover, he's like, hey, I'm going to show you the hospital. We're not allowed to raid the hospital because, it's a hospital.
Yeah.
But the top floor is the bad guys. And the Mooj use it as a observation post, and every once in a while we have to go in and clean it out, but you're not allowed to occupy it. It's like a mosque or whatever. It's a hospital. Ooh. So, funny thing, we go in, and we're looking around, and there's a guy doing surgery, a doctor, with our guy with a doctor's coat on.
Yeah.
Cigarette hanging out his mouth, ashes falling in the wound of the person he's sewing up.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy. Then we go over, he goes, I'm going to show you where the morgue is. Because you're going to have to bring the intel people over, and you got to escort them, because they'll get shot up going through the city. You got to escort them, and they scan the eyeballs of the dead people or something, looking for some kind of intel.
Yeah, see which terrorists have been killed.
Yeah, something. I don't know. He just told me you got to do it. So we go to the morgue. The morgue is refrigerated. Well, that's where the people that actually have some money get stuck. They get stuck in the refrigerated part. But they're stacked up like cordwood.
Oh, really?
They're just stacked on top of each other. Some of them have sheets in between them. Some are just naked, stacked on top of each other. And so then he goes, and this is where you have to take the guys, this is where they put the poor people or the people that don't have anybody. And it's just a tractor trailer. A bunch of tractor trailers, sitting in a parking lot in that Iraq sun. They're supposed to be refrigerated. They got refrigerator systems on them, but they're not turned on. And,
that's disgusting.
Yeah, it was terrible, man. You open the door, and I climb up in there, and he's like, "You're ready for this, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fucking dead people. I'm not... Dead people don't bother me. It's only when they're dead Americans." So we go in there, and they're oozing. Because the ones
they got the gases coming out of them.
And they're stacked on top of each other, so the ones on the bottom are... As they start to...
They're like melting onto each other.
Yeah, it's really terrible.
That's... Oh, man.
And of course, my dumb ass slips, and I put my hand against the wall, and it's full of, ooze from the ones that are moved. And I'm like, oh, you're so right. He's like, I told you to wear gloves. So, after that, I put my gloves on, and I wore them all the time until I got the dexterity to handle the weapon, with those aviator gloves that they used to give us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was funny, man. He's like, I told you.
That's rough, man. I had one of the, I think episode 4. I want to say it was episode 4. Maybe it was episode 5. Either one. Michael Hanthorne. He is my friend back home. He came in and was motor T, and then was in Fallujah in 04, but he got selected. He got his unit got tasked to go be mortuary affairs, and he said all they did was during the entire clear through Fallujah, they were like, the dudes are fighting in this house, they're in the house behind it, cleaning up the bodies from the fight that they had just finished, and then when the dudes moved to the next house, they moved in behind them.
Oh man!
And so not only are they getting shot at because obviously there's still fighting going on, but they're moving these dead bodies, and some of them had been out there. He talked about how some of them had been out in the sun for a couple days, and like they'd be. So that's kind of what that reminds me of. So if you haven't, for those of you that may not have listened to that podcast, that's a really good one. It gives a perspective of the Marine Corps where hey, I'm coming in as motor T or motor transport. I'm going to be a driver. Well, that's not necessarily the job you might do the whole time. Like there's other stuff that's out there, and there's other and good and bad, And it's you talk to him though, and he said he'd go back and do it again. You know, even though most of the guys that went in his unit got out for PTSD, guys had mental issues, but like if he was asked to do it again, like to, you know, live that part of his life over, he said he would do it again, just because he was with his dudes, you know.
Yeah,
and that's the brotherhood.
Yeah, you can't replace that that experience.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, few people have that level of commitment.
Yeah,
you know, and I don't mind bad guys, foreigners, kids. I do mind dead kids. That kind of bugs me, but
yeah,
dead Americans, that bug me.
Yeah,
but you just have to mentally separate yourself from the enemy. My job is to kill that guy. Sucks to be you.
Yeah, I never really felt bad for the enemy. I never put myself in a position to like I remember. Okay, so one time I remember we did a HIMARS strike, and there was a guy, I don't remember. I did the HIMARS strike, killed a dude, and they brought him back to the FOB, you know, to do the intel stuff. And someone came in the COC, because that's where I did the strike from the COC. I was watching it.
Oh, that's cool.
I was watching it on the, you know, 70-inch big screen TV. I got the what was it? A Predator? No, I had a Reaper feed, and I had like a camera feed, something else. And I'm like, with all that, I'm like typing shit, you know, calling it in on the radio and all and everything. So, anyway, so take this dude out. They bring the body back. And someone comes in and they're like, Kramer, like that dude you killed's out here. They're like, do you wanna come see him?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. Like, I mean, I don't know if it would bother me, but I'm like, I'm not gonna put myself in a position like, fuck it. Why do I care what he looks like? Like, why do I want to go see that? You know?
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't like. I did it for me. Like, I seeing people shot and stuff. Like, okay, that sucks. You know, you see it, you're like, damn, that's crazy. But I never like went out of my way to like, oh, let me go over here and see this dead body. You know, like,
let me poke it with a stick.
Yeah, I just never. Some people have that fascination, and I'm just like, not really.
It's a thin line, you know, because you want to. I met a guy on the beach at Iwo Jima the second time I was there.
Oh wow!
And they wouldn't let him go up to the top. World War II vet, and it was a, you know, Japanese American thing going on up there, ceremony. And they wouldn't let him go up there because he had a string of teeth around his cowboy hat.
Oh,
and they were
no
teeth
way.
that he had taken out of Japanese that he had killed during the war.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And he was like, well, they want me to take off my teeth. And I was like, well, you know, they're trying to get us. We're kind of together on this deal now.
The war's over, man.
Yeah, he was like, I killed every one of them myself. You know? They killed my friends. I killed them. I'm keeping their teeth. He was adamant about. He wasn't mad.
No,
but he was like, "Hey, I earned the right to wear my teeth.
I earned these teeth."
Yeah,
that's
so there's a fine line. You know?
World War II and World War. I mean, basically any war before the internet, before 24-hour news, was a different war. Before Vietnam, I think, is where war was really covered. You know, you had war reporters there daily, and they could send back same day reports and stuff like that. Whereas like World War II, there were very few reporters that were, you know, storming the beaches of Guadalcanal.
And it took time for news to get back, and it got filtered too. Yeah,
and so a lot of these dudes, it's weird if you actually look it up. There's a lot of pictures of Marines and stuff in all over islands all over the Pacific with like Japanese skulls. You know, they're posing with these skulls and stuff. And I mean, you read like, God, what is that book? With the Old Breed.
Oh, yeah.
You read With the Old Breed, and he talks about how they're pulling out the teeth, like the gold teeth, because they're worth money out of the dead Japanese dudes and stuff. And it's just like, we got mad because guys pissed on the dead bodies, you know, of those snipers. But like the stuff that guys did back then, and I don't know, I never had the infatuation of it to where I'm like, I want to go pull someone's teeth out and keep them as a trophy. Like, war trophies weren't really. The only thing I ever said I would want, like if I got hit by an IED or something, or I got shot, I would want like that bullet or something that I pulled out of me. You know, if I survived it, obviously, I'd want something like a reminder.
Yeah, a little souvenir. Yeah, I think it's different. It's a different experience, obviously.
It's a different world completely.
Yeah.
The mindset, the thinking was different. The education was different.
Sure, and the warfare was different too. I mean, our stuff has been, you know, driven but that was all out, win or die.
We have really romanticized war, especially World War II. Europe, we talk about like the war in Europe, and we're like how it was the just war and all, and it was. Don't get me wrong. I'm with it. I'm not saying it's not.
Right.
What I'm getting at is movies that come out like Fury. I think Fury was a better... I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Fury seemed like a way more realistic representation of what World War II was compared to, like, Saving Private Ryan. You know what I'm saying? Because Saving Private Ryan showed the viciousness and some of the, like, coming on the beach during Normandy and stuff like that. But beyond that, it was basically, like, kind of just a relationship between the guys. More so it was what they were doing to affect the people around them. Whereas Fury... Not only was it the relationship, but the rawness of like some of the scenes in it were pretty gruesome. I mean,
it's interesting the way that they portray it, and I always wonder who they have as their advisor.
Yeah,
because there's certain things that I know Hollywood does certain things, to dehumanize, military personnel because they're kind of liberal or whatever their deal is, or whatever their opinion is. They do certain things that you and I know even then didn't happen.
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of Vietnam guys, and they're like, yeah, most of those movies are so full of crap. We never raped, village people. We never did any of that stuff. Or not the village people, but people in the village.
Yeah. No, they make it sound like that. You see a lot of these. Yeah, you're right. You get movies like Platoon, and what was the director's name? I can't remember. Someone's screaming at the radio right now.
Yeah,
hearing
Scorsese.
Scorsese. Okay, that's what I thought it was. That was based off his own experience in Vietnam.
Yeah, I just
supposedly.
And I think they over dramatized because that was the theme of the time.
Yeah.
So the theme of the time was all these guys that went to Vietnam were crazy and
burning down villages and killing everyone.
Yep, and they were all a bunch of hicks.
And in reality, like the Marines had the combined action patrols or whatever they were in the village stabilization projects where they were living in the villages with the people.
Yep.
And it was almost like making their own little village military and security forces to keep
National Guard to try to keep the communists out.
Yeah.
But most of the Vietnam guys that you go to the VFW and or any of the
I don't. I need things. To. I was a member when I first came back from Iraq or Afghanistan. I went to one with my mom, did my coming home party there, and they're like, "You're automatically a free member, for whatever, welcome back and all that." And are you a member here in Oceanside?
I'm VFW and American Legion. If there's an organization, I've paid up to be a lifetime member.
Yeah, I need to get on it.
We'll have to go together. It's because you talk to these guys and you learn.
Yeah,
like I learned. These guys like, you know what? We would have never turned on each other like that.
Yeah.
We would have never allowed someone to commit a war crime like that.
Yeah.
There's some things that you do, like, shoot the dead guy or, play around or hold them up by their hair and take a picture smiling. But that's just part of how you get through it.
It's funny because the people that judge you are the people that would never step into a situation like that.
Sure. So the ones that have never been there, so they don't understand the comedy. It's
the darkest humor.
Yeah.
The people that have the same humor as us are like us, police officers, probably like paramedics and firefighters. People that see the worst of humanity.
Yeah. Or that have to deal with, watching. I talked to a cop one time. He was telling me a story about seatbelts. Mm-hmm. And he said, back in the 60s, he pulled up to a car in the middle of the street. And the lady was rocking in the front seat. And he thought she was a drunk. So he got out of the car, and he was a county sheriff or something. He got out of the car and went up to her and was like, "Hey, I need you to see your paperwork, your driver's license, whatever." And she was holding a little girl. And what had happened was the little girl was standing up in the front seat, and when she hit the brakes, the girl hit the dash and killed her.
Oh, no way.
The old metal dash. It was a 62 Impala. He told me it was a 62 Impala metal dash. She hit the dash, it killed her, and that was a mom holding her.
Oh,
and that's why she was parked in the middle of the street. So that's the kind of stuff that those guys deal with.
Daily.
And so that's why we are able to have, that kind of stuff that we see, like kids getting killed or...
It sucks, but you're like, well, that's the way it is.
Yep.
It's, and that's what it is. It's because it's way more common it's like, oh, this is your first time you've seen a dead kid,
Yeah.
you know, or this is the first time you've seen a dead woman, or this is the first time you've seen someone be shot, you know, like your first time, you're like, oh shit.
Well, that's the thing. You have to separate yourself from it because you have a job to do.
Exactly.
You know, it's kind of like being a paramedic. Hey, this one's dead. I'm not helping him. I'm helping that one that's still alive.
Yeah.
But my son is dead. Yeah, he is.
There's nothing we can. That's.
I need to work on this guy, or being a trauma surgeon at an emergency center or something. You just got to separate yourself.
Yeah, man. So anyway, man, we went way off on a tangent there from the
you might have
the
to
dead
cut
bodies.
this thing up into episodes.
No, that'd be great. We're at just over 2 hours and 15 minutes or so.
Holy moly! I don't think I could keep my own attention that long.
See, remember when I started, I was like, people were like, I don't really have much to say, and here we are, over 2 hours into it, and so let's finish up Ramadi. Was there any? Now, as a first sergeant, normally a first sergeant's not going to go out on patrols. You know, that's not your bag. Like, you're out doing other stuff. You're taking care. You're making sure chow's going to places. You're making sure administrative packages are being taken care of. You're making sure all that stuff's going on.
I was lucky.
Coming from the infantry side, you're not the average first sergeant at an infantry battalion. You weren't like an air winger that became a first sergeant, and now you're the first sergeant infantry unit. So coming from the infantry, you actually have a background in that. So did you find yourself out on missions and stuff like that?
Yeah, I had more time out of the wire than anyone else in the company, except for the CO, his driver, his gunner, and his radio man.
Okay. That's always good to hear, though.
So, yeah, the company commander, he went out every day, at least twice a day. He went with... So we had a rotation. Like, first platoon is out in the morning, you know, second is out in the afternoon, third is guarding the government center, and fourth is retrofitting. And then they would rotate. So... the CO made almost every single... I think he had, 500 patrols. I had 480 something patrols, which was more than anybody else except for the CO and his crew.
Is there any of note that you want to talk about? Any that stand out amongst the others? There
was a lot of good ones. Man, those guys too. I had it easy. I would just get in the platoon sergeant's vehicle, and they had a seat. So originally I had my own vehicle. It got shot with an RPG. And
while you were in it?
No.
Oh.
But and then because vehicles break down and stuff, I gave that vehicle to one of the platoons.
Okay.
So they would have more gun vehicles.
Yeah.
So then I had a high back for Kazivac.
Mm-hmm.
That's useless. So we gave up on the high backs.
Why is that?
So you had the up armor, not up armor. You had the ghetto armor. The welded on armor.
Okay.
When you're driving through the city, if somebody on the second floor wants to drop something in your vehicle, say drop it out of the second floor of a window into the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, so it was the open top ones.
Yeah, they were open top.
And it had that weird port side on the side, the little port windows on the side.
Yeah,
I remember those.
They were homemade. They welded stuff and little windows. It looked like something out of the 1800s.
Yeah, okay.
Wild Wild West, the TV show Wild Wild West. Some steampunk looking thing. So those things were useless. So anyways, they gave that vehicle. So what the platoon sergeants would do is they would keep me a seat in their vehicle behind them. So I just get in their vehicle, and wherever they were doing, I just went along and helped them, with it. I had...
What role did you play on the patrol?
Usually Kazivac.
So you ran the litter teams and stuff like that? So you were
Kazivac when people got hurt, when they got shot or whatever. Then a lot of times I just went as moral support. Yeah. I had one of my.
It's always good to see. It's always good to see the command shed. The head shed out there.
Well, you got to be out there. One, because they got to know, and you got to know what's going on. Yeah. Because kids will do crazy stuff. But I had one of my platoon sergeants, Alcosis. He was a sergeant. And he ended up being the platoon sergeant due to different situations and how people had to be moved around and casualties and stuff. Mm-hmm. So here's a young sergeant running the platoon in combat. So I tried to go with him as much as possible. I almost rode with him every day, except for the one day I didn't ride with him. Was the day that the vehicle in front of his got blown up by IED. We lost 5 guys on that night.
Oh, really? In that one IED?
One IED.
What kind of vehicle
Whitley,
was
Flores, Trevino. Yeah, 5 guys in one vehicle. And then...
A Humvee?
Yeah, it was a Humvee. Yeah. So up armor before they were actually armor.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was like that 1/4-inch thick kind of armor.
But it went through the bottom.
Yeah.
They drove over it. It was a sniper extract. So that's the one that I wish I had been on. I didn't make that one because I was actually writing the combat awards. We were towards the end of the deployment.
What was that like for the company? Or was that you lost 5 from your company?
Yeah, 5 that day and then 2 on another day.
What was that like for, like the morale and the men to, especially you said you're coming towards the end and then suddenly you lose. Because I imagine Ramadi wasn't an easy place to get sent to. So losing 5 guys towards the end of your deployment, I can't imagine was good on the mindset of the people that were just wanting to get out of there by that point.
I was really surprised. I did go through a lull.
Yeah. Did you guys do a stand down or anything after that happened?
Yeah, you keep fighting.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised because you just do it. You just do the next step. It's kind of like doing the workout you don't want to do. Yeah. I don't feel like working out. All right, I'm just going to do a set of pull-ups, and then I'll see how I feel. And then I'll do a set of push-ups, and I'll see how I feel. And you just kind of do it.
Yeah. And
next thing you know, you're done. It's the same thing.
Just take little bites.
Yeah, and so the key to that, everybody's like, oh, we have to, give them all hugs. I ain't giving any of the guys a hug. Get your asses up, get your shit on, get in the vehicle, and get the fuck back out there. Because if you give them time, if you don't give them something to do,
they're going to dwell on it.
They're going to dwell on it.
Do you still believe in that?
Yeah, it worked pretty good.
In hindsight?
Yeah, I actually should have done it more, I think.
Yeah.
I think I was a little softer. As you get older, you get softer. I think I was a little softer later on. And I think some of the mistakes that, not in combat, but the mistakes that other leaders did or other NCOs made under me later on in my career were as a result of me not being such an asshole.
Yeah.
I allowed them too much feelings, and that gave them they kind of went off the track there. So yeah, when Kanan and Mortensen were killed, they were killed on a night operation, and they were the Kazivac crew that was with me. One completely was losing it, because they were his buddies.
Yeah.
And so I told the doc, I was like, "Hey doc, give him CPR," and he goes, "He's dead." We were in the back of a high-back Humvee. We were trying to get to Charlie Med, and we didn't have I had left the gun vehicle behind because if you take 2 vehicles off, now you got 2 gun vehicles off and your high back.
Yeah. So
now you're under gun, and God knows what's going to happen back there with the rest of it. So it's just 1 gun vehicle and us. And Doc was like, "Hey, he's already dead." I said, "I know he's dead." But I was holding the other kid, and he was bleeding out. And I was like, "Yeah, but if give him CPR, this way people see you doing something."
Yeah.
So the sergeant that was up gun on the high back, or he was providing overhead or top security, he was spazzing out because old boy was already dead. So you give him CPR, he's going to calm down and actually look for bad guys.
Yeah.
Instead of watching us and crying over him. And the other kid was dying. I was holding him, and he was bleeding out. It was a big head injury, and head injuries bleed anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, they bleed the worst.
Yeah, but he had a chunk of the side of his head missing. And so even if he was going to make it, he was going to be hurting. So I was like, "Hey, I'll hold him. You give him CPR. And then we'll, And so we get there, and we get out of the vehicles, take him inside, and they take the one Marine into the morgue tent. Well, I need all his shit, man. I need his radio.
Yeah, you got to account for all the serialized gear and stuff like that.
And we only had enough PRRs, radios, for each person. If you lose one, now you got somebody without one.
Yeah, okay.
So I wanted his radio. He had grenades on him, ammunition, other gear.
This is like the administrative stuff about when someone gets killed that people don't really think about.
Yeah.
Until it happens.
I need all that stuff. I need his ammo. I need his weapon. You know, I don't care if they lose the weapon, but we need it to fight with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had to go in the morgue tent and then get all that stuff. And God, I still talk to the kid's mom on Facebook about every day. He was there and he was breaking down, so I made him scrub the back of the vehicle out because it was full of blood.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, get a water hose and get this blood out of the vehicle. And so, yeah, then you go inside Charlie Med. And thank God we have put dog tags in the boots. Because remember, I had only got there maybe 6 weeks before we left.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew both of the Marines, but I didn't know which one was which without seeing a name tape.
Yeah.
You know, now they're all shot up and you can't tell. And they're in camis and got all the gear on. And they had the wrong name. They were about to put blood in the one guy and they had the wrong name. And I was like, hey, look in his boot, make sure we got the right kid. And they're like, oh, shit, it's the other guy.
Oh,
he was
man.
wearing the blouse of the other kid.
Oh, really?
He had borrowed it, and so, but they had a dog tag in the boot. He had lost the other dog tag in the explosion.
They were killed by an ID as well?
Yeah, so it was an IED behind a concrete, like those barriers that we put out.
Yeah.
So
Jersey Bears or whatever.
Yeah, so as we ran around the barrier, they set it off, and it caused the concrete to go through and hit both these guys in the head. Hit the other kid right in the ass. He stayed and kept fighting. Had I known he was injured that bad, I probably would have took him with me. But he was like, "No, I'm okay." And we came back, and he had a gash, like from his belt to the back of his thigh, was a giant gash. You could put your fist. He had like two butt cracks. Two butt cracks, and you would be like, put fist inside that gash where he took shrapnel.
Oh, so big, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, so, but yeah, those two, Kanan and Mortensen, both of them died that night. But yeah, you got to keep them busy.
How many guys did you end up losing in that deployment?
The whole time was 8.
8 total for the battalion or the company?
For the company. So 16 out of the battalion. I think it was 16.
Jeez.
15 or 16 out of the battalion. We had it better than the guys before us. I think it was 2-4 was there before us.
Yeah.
They took a
That's Ramadi, man.
Yeah.
That's one of those places. It was overshadowed by Fallujah.
Yeah.
Ramadi had its time where everyone knew about it, but in the history of Iraq, Fallujah is like the big one. People know about the invasion and people know about Fallujah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't really realize the amount of, unless they were there or in around that time frame, the amount of fighting and stuff that was going on in Ramadi. So, man, 8 dudes from one company.
Yeah,
that had to have been hard as a first sergeant. This is your first time in a company leadership position, and
first time was first sergeant. You're like, damn.
And then, I mean,
and the problem was they were all good people,
Yeah.
But we had good kids on there. I had you have the typical story. The guy that the night before we deployed, he wrecked his truck on the 78, or his roommate's truck.
Yeah.
Got drunk, wrecked it on the 78, high-centered it, got arrested. He was like, I can't go, I have a court date. Like, you're going, bitch. We went and picked him up from the drunk tank in Vista. Brought him back. Beforehand, I told his platoon sergeant, hey, get all his crap put on the parade deck. He's going. So as soon as we got back, we changed him into camis and threw him on the bus. We were already leaving.
Get on the bus.
Yeah, he was like, I have a court date. No, you don't.
Sorry, bud.
I'll write the judge.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a war going on.
Yep.
We had a kid try to get out of his 3-6 deployment, and maybe there was more to it than this, but, I was an attachment, but he went and got a spider tattoo on his neck, thinking that he was going to get kicked out for it. And they're like, yeah, we're going to kick you out after the deployment.
Yeah.
So he still ended up going back to Marja, because I think he was in the original Marja and didn't want to go back through that shit again.
Oh, yeah.
So he went back to Marja with us, and then I think they kicked him out when he got back, but yeah, it happens. So you come back from Ramadi. Obviously, it was a tough deployment for the battalion. Was there any kind of... Did the Marine Corps have anything set up for you guys as like to somehow deal with the stress and the the post PT. I know you want to call it PTSD, whatever you want to call it. Coming back from a deployment like that where you lose so many people, was there like counseling services ready for guys, or?
I don't know. I don't remember, because we went right back into the training cycle.
Yeah, that was a busy time. That was a busy time to be in a combat arms unit.
Yeah, you went back to the training cycle. 7 months later, you went back.
Okay.
And during that time period, you're gonna get replacements. A boot drop at SOI. You're gonna lose guys to other places.
Yeah, B billets, orders, EASing.
EAS. We had one of my buddies was a Lance Corporal in the company. He left at the 120-day mark. So actually, he's one of the guys that helps me stay in touch with those guys. He had done 2 combat deployments before Ramadi.
Okay.
With 1-5, 1 or 2, so we had what's called 120 dayers.
Yeah.
So they would stay for 120 days and then they would leave and go back to the States. You didn't get replacements for them; you just lost those guys. So yeah, there was a big turnover. At the time, we hadn't figured it out, So then we did 7 months. You deploy again.
Where'd you go for the next deployment?
So the next one, I think, was a MEU.
Okay.
I can't remember now.
Did it end up going to Iraq? Because I know at that time half the MEUs were going to Iraq.
Yeah,
anyway.
So what would happen was, they'd go to Okinawa, draw their gear in Okinawa, and then get sent to Iraq. And now they got gear that belongs to Okinawa CIF, but they're in Iraq, and it was a big goat rope. We probably lost $1 million worth of stuff just because, we hadn't figured it out yet.
Yeah, the weird bureaucratic lines that have been crossed,
Yeah.
Gear from one place, supporting someone in a different place.
Yeah, and how do you return it? And do you return it, or do you just write it off? And in the meantime, Lance Corporal Banats is just trying not to lose his magazine pouch.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to lose.
I just want to pass my gear inspection. That's all I'm looking for.
Yep. He doesn't care if it belongs to CIF or to Okinawa. He doesn't care. He just doesn't want to lose it, so he doesn't have to go buy one or get yelled at.
Yeah.
So, then we did that one, and then we did another MEU. We did a UDP MEU. Yeah, we did 31st MEU. Did 31st MEU, and then we did what's the one out of San Diego? 11 and 15? I forget which ones leave out of San Diego, but we did one of those. And then it just got boring after that because I went on I&I duty.
Okay.
So
who were you with for I&I duty?
I was with 6th Engineer Support Battalion.
How was that coming from
God,
pure infantry all the way to a reservist engineer?
Yeah, so that's terrible. That's where I think we make some mistakes in our military. So I didn't realize it at the time. At the time, I stayed in 1-5 for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to stay longer. So I got selected for Sergeant Major. The Sergeant Major, Dillery, he was leaving. So I was like, I'll just go upstairs and I'll stay in 1-5 some more. And I thought I had my scam worked out. Because up until that point in my career, I had pretty much gotten everything I had asked for. Or I had been able to work the system to work in my favor. At least get me close to where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I had never received orders ever in my career up until that point to anywhere that I didn't either ask for or wasn't close to what I was. They were like, hey, I can't give you that, but I can give you this.
Yeah.
So I thought for sure I was going to work it, and I was going upstairs, and I'd be the 1-5 Sergeant Major, and then I'd be able to do the Afghanistan deployment with them because they were coming up for Afghanistan.
You'd already been promoted to Sergeant Major at this point?
I was selected, and so that was my plan. So Sergeant Major Dillery, he left. I think he retired or moved. And so I was interim for like 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I thought for sure I had solidified my plan.
Yeah, you're like, I'm here. I'm sitting in the desk.
Yeah. And so I got frocked. And I went on leave. Never go on leave. Don't get off the boat.
Yeah, they realized they could do without you.
Yeah. I went on leave and they gave me orders to Oregon. To I&I duty, Oregon. And there was no getting out of them at that point because it was like October. It was so late in the year that I was the filler.
Yeah.
Hey, you're taking that spot.
Yeah.
So
that sucks.
Yeah, 2 years and 10 months there. Portland's great. The food is great. There's a lot of really nice stuff out there. Oregon, full of nice people. Great veterans organizations up there. A lot of Vietnam vets. A lot of Vietnam vets up there. It's one of the best support agencies or support groups for the young Marines is up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, just tons of veterans involved in... And it might be their solstice because they are kind of surrounded with a little bit different thinking community.
Yeah.
But a lot of Vietnam guys and a lot of, even after Vietnam, Cold War type guys, support the unit, support the reservists, support
That's cool.
the young Marines, the kids.
That's good. You can build a community around it then.
Yeah, great community, great people, but not the infantry.
Yeah.
And not good for, it wasn't good for me. Now I know. Looking back, I know. Yeah, wow, you did actually get me to talk about stuff that I was avoiding. But I was like, yeah, now I know that, you have that depression period when you leave the guys you've been with for 4 years.
Yeah.
And you've been in combat with them. And then a couple of MEWs too. And now you go to a completely new place. So that was not the most effective duty station for me. Although it did help me hook up my buddy who's had a kid with autism, and the Autism Society of America, their president is up there.
Okay.
In Washington, just across the border. And he was able to switch places with me. He was going to come to ANGLICO.
Okay.
And once I found out about it, I'm like, hey, take my spot here and I'll take your spot there. That'll get me back to Southern California. And my kids were down here and stuff, back towards the kids, and you'll be up here. And he's a outdoorsman, hunter, fisher.
That's the place. Yeah, that's a good place to be. So you left you left the engineer unit, and then you came to ANGLICO from there.
Yeah.
What did you know about ANGLICO before arriving to it?
Let's see, what I know about ANGLICO. They were cool guys with black T-shirts. One of my buddies, one of my, I guess my mentors now. I was his mentor when he was a sergeant. I was a staff sergeant, and he is now my mentor. The student has become the master. He was a SHRIG guy. He was an admin Marine by trade, but he had been in SHRIG.
In what? SHRIG?
Surveillance, Reconnaissance, Intelligence Group.
Okay, I never even heard of that.
So ANGLICO was part of SHRIG at one point.
Oh, okay, through the MEF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he had been there, so he was able to give me an idea. And then I had a real good friend of my wife's. Her husband was a buddy of mine. Kids played soccer together. He was an ANGLICO guy.
Okay.
So I was able to get some insight from him. But that was all I knew. It was hard as hell to figure out. Until you break it down and say, okay, FICT is like a fire team.
Yeah.
SALT is like a squad.
It is weird, especially when you come in and they're like, yeah, this is your brigade. And you're like, what the fuck? What am I, in the Army?
Yeah.
That's an Army term,
And why only have 180 people?
Yeah, right? For, a command has a lieutenant colonel and a sergeant major. And there's at most 180 people. I think you guys, at one point when you had 3 brigades, you probably bumped up to closer to 200, right?
Yeah, like 197 or something. I forget what the numbers were. I used to know all that stuff by heart.
I think when I left there, it was like 165 or... Yeah, it's a smattering of dudes. But what's funny, and I always tell people, being such a small unit, there are so many people there that I don't even know. And it's because you're on, if you're on the teams especially, you're out the door doing something, or the other team's out the door. The only people I ever really knew were some of the other team chiefs, because there was only 4 of us. So I knew some of the other team chiefs that were there. And then some of the team leaders, because I was a team chief, so I was dealing with team leaders and team chiefs. And then some of you guys in the headquarters section. And then outside of that, it was my platoon, my team were the only guys. I didn't know any of the corporals and dudes from the comm shop, or I knew Brown. I remember Brown from supply.
Yeah.
A few people here and there, but for being you'd think with such a small unit, you would know everybody, but everyone's just gone. Schools,
and
deployments, training.
Everybody's on a different timeline, and you can't, and that's another thing. You can scam an ANGLICO.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to go do this.
Yeah.
Well, there's only 5 of you. And, so are you really doing that? I don't know. So you can get away with being on your own program.
Yeah. I think we had a pretty... I will say that my time at ANGLICO showed me that you can get a lot of really good quality training out of your small teams as long as you enable those teams to do that training. Like, I didn't know. I showed up, I picked up Sergeant. I picked up Sergeant, did a deployment as a fist chief. I had my fist when I was attached to 3-6. And then I came back from that and then went right to TCP school, which is Tactical Air Control Party School for those that don't know. And then, so I was a JTAC after that, and then got put on an advisor team. So and nowhere in this point was I scheduling training or making any of that. I did a little bit, very little as a sergeant when I was the assistant chief at 10th Marines at 210. But after that, I was just going to training. Shit was set up. It was like, Kramer, be here. Even as a staff sergeant. Like, hey, you're the JTAC for this TECP shoot on Wednesday with tanks, and, so-and-so is going to be the mortar team. Show up at the OP at this time, and you'll meet the guys you're working with. That was kind of it for me. So I didn't really understand, like, the full range of, like, ranges and training events that you could actually get on, like, RIFMIS, which is, like, the scheduling website that for the people that don't know, that you could get on RIFMIS and plan all this awesome training. And it's one of those things that if no one's ever told you, or you've never taken the time to look at it, if you even know that that's where you go to look at it, like, you don't even know. How many people know that you can just go down and have contractors, you can go schedule a range, and contractors will come out at no cost to the unit and set up pop-up targets, pop-up metal targets and green Ivans and everything else. And you can go out and do this full-on range and just take it, instead of doing the normal table 3, pivot right, fire 2 rounds, you can actually have a decent range that's having,
Yeah, you can add variety. But, you don't know that. You don't know what you don't know.
So I think ANGLICO fostered that kind of mentality, especially for the younger guys, because you're kind of forced to learn that. Because there's so much training going on.
Yeah.
You get forced into, okay, how do I schedule ranges? Because my OIC said we're going out and throwing grenades, and then we're shooting AT-4s. What range can do that? How do I do this?
Right. So how did you find out how to use RIFMIS and how to do that stuff?
RIFMIS for me, Captain Watt. I don't know if you remember him. He was Salt Delta. I think he might have. You know what? I think he was Salt Delta the entire time, because I think he was Salt Delta on the deployment to Afghanistan as well.
If I look him up on my phone, I'll recognize it.
Yeah, you probably know him. You'll know him if you saw him. Because it was him and Captain Martinez. Captain Martinez was the Harrier pilot that I had.
Yeah.
Tip was his call sign. I'm trying to get him on the show too. Next time he's in town, he's gonna sit down and do an interview.
Oh, boy.
His Harrier was one of the ones that got blown up during the attack on Bastion. He was.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. So I definitely want to sit down, and he's such a good dude. He's out now. He's out, and he's going through law school. But so I want to sit down. But those were my team leaders, and I showed up, and my team had chopped. Like, I checked in on a Friday. And then that week, that Monday, my team had already checked out of ANGLICO and checked into the MU. So when I checked in on Friday, they're like, "Hey, cool, welcome. Here's your shit. Check out, and then you're gonna check in and then check out, and then Monday you're gonna check in and start your workup." So I rolled right into a lot of training that was already set up. But then Captain Watt made me get a RIFMIS account and start scheduling the ranges, and we needed one for when we were in Kuwait. They use the same system.
Yeah,
it's all under the same. So we got left in Kuwait for 3 months because the ship got pulled for some tasking while we were out there. So I was setting up ranges. We were going to the range 3 times a week, blowing stuff up.
Oh, that's cool. Man.
Yeah, it was
And once you get that, so you learn how to use it, and now you can, after you get the tricks to it, hey, I can slide in. These guys are shooting in there oh, it's scheduled. Yeah, but it's only scheduled for the morning.
Yeah.
They'll leave at noon. I'll roll in at 1300.
Yeah, you start learning how to network and meet people. You know who to call at range control. You're like, who's the guy who I need to call this guy if I need this, because he's the expert on air stuff. So he can make sure the airspace and everything is good to go. And this guy I need to talk to about whatever. So, and like you said, you'll go on there and you'll make liaison with other units, because you'll see another unit's like one day we were going to shoot a range, but their SOI had it scheduled. And once we talked to them, they were like, "Oh, we're just hiking through. Like we hiking however many miles, and that's part of our hike. So we're not actually shooting. So you guys can actually come out and shoot. So you get to." And then we were like, "Hey, if you guys ever wanted someone to come out," because we were always like that. Like, "Hey, we were always trying to make connections with people because the more people you know, the better."
Yeah, and like we always said earlier, your job is to make the other guy successful.
Yeah.
So whatever I can do to help you, I'm going to do it, and I expect the same in return. So if you can send your docs out, and I'll let them shoot, and I already have a ranged corpsman, but I'll take all the corpsmen, and you guys can all shoot and play because they never get to play.
Yeah.
And same thing with other units.
Yeah, I tried to when I was a team chief. I tried to always invite the headquarters guys out because I knew what it was like to be a motor T guy. I did 3 years of it where I didn't have a rifle issued to me. Like when I got a rifle is when I went to the rifle range.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You go to the armory, they're like, "Here's your rifle card for the range." You'd clean up the shitty weapon that someone else left behind.
The one that was loaned to some other guy before.
Yeah, you'd have it for 2 weeks to shoot with, and you'd go back and then turn your rifle cards in. Like you didn't keep a weapon on you. Like there was no like, "This is my rifle" kind of deal. And so I remember what that was like. So I would make sure to be like, "Hey, motor T operator that's driving us out to the range in the 7-ton, bring your fucking rifle and your magazines. You're shooting too."
Yeah.
And I remember one kid, what was his name? I don't remember his name now. I feel bad. He was a real nice kid. I remember the first time he showed up, didn't have any gear or didn't have any, his flak was slick. Because he was a brand new motor T operator. Just got done with
magazine
school.
Pouches.
He showed up, and I remember him jumping out of the 7-ton, and I'm like, "Next time you fucking come to one of these ranges, you're having all your shit just like one of these guys that are on the teams. And then, like, if you want to shoot, if you want to fucking come out here and do stuff, then, you're going to do it. All of it. Meaning you're going to bring your weapon, you're going to bring all your shit with you, and you're going to do it." And I don't know, we had good success. And some guys liked it, some didn't. One time we had a range, and we had so much ammo. I mean, I took my team, which is 18, 19 guys or whatever, and then like less than 10, I think, headquarters guys, maybe a couple brigade people. So it was like 20 of us total probably. And we had 20,000 rounds of ammo.
Holy jeez.
A mix of 5.56, 7.62, and 50 cal. We had all of it, and we had 2 or 3 that we were shooting like the next day, and AT4s. Like, I found out this is one of those things you learn. I came to a training meeting and we were talking about ranges and like how much ammo can we use. And I'm like, "How much ammo do we have?" And no one knew the answer. And I'm like, "Well, let's get with the ammo tech and see how much actual ammo we still have left." Because it's like, this was in like July, and so we have a few months until the end of the fiscal year. So we have ranges that we can plan out for the next few months. And he comes back with like 50,000 5.56 rounds and like all this stuff. And so much ammo that I'm like, dude, we can't even shoot all this.
Yeah, it's physically impossible to shoot it all.
I'm like, that's insane because we had like 200 hand grenades and like it was just a ridiculous amount, like multiple. I think we shot 5 AT4s that day. But anyway, so we go out and we had all these rounds and we have all these headquarters guys out there. And I remember people are taking turns on the machine guns, and they're going from like the 240 and the 50 caliber are on one side of the range, and we have all the small arms stuff over here. So I got my sergeants, running the different parts of the range. I got like DeMaro's on a 50 cal. I got another dude on a 50 cal, another dude on a 240, and then like a guy over here, almost like a coach with his like target blocks, where he's like watching 3 people with M4s firing. So we got a whole range going. And I remember looking off to the side, and there was like a couple of the S1 kids. And I'm not going to say their names. You know who they were there when you were there. They were the S1 kids that were there when you were there. One of them was a female, And I'm like, hey, we still got like 2,000 7.62 rounds. You guys want to shoot the 240? Or do you want to start police calling? And they're just like, we'll just police call. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I turn around to one of my guys and I'm like, they just said they'd rather police call than shoot the machine gun. I'm like, all right, start over there and start police calling. Like, yelled at one of the lance corporals from the team, get over here, get a can of ammo, get on the fucking 240 and start shooting, because I don't know, man.
I don't know why people do that, but I know I've shot a lot.
Yeah.
You can get tired of shooting, but not tired to where I'd rather pick up brass and shoot.
No way.
You know what I mean? Pick up brass is a punishment. That's for the guy that didn't show up on time. That's for the, that is not something I volunteer for.
Like, no, I don't want to shoot the 240. I'll go over here and pick up brass. Like, get out of here.
Are you kidding me?
But
we talk
so
about shooting. Man.
I would make the headquarters people come out and train, and at that point we had been shooting for a while, so I didn't really care if they wanted to shoot anymore. It was better for my guys anyway because I could get some of my junior guys more comfortable in the weapon systems and stuff. But
yeah, and you got to use it to be good at it.
So what was it like for you to come from your infantry background and, almost your entire career you were infantry except for that small stint, you were at DI for a little bit, you were at MCT or SOI for a little bit, and then at the engineer battalion for a little bit, or engineer company, whatever it was. So what was it like coming from this strong combat arms background with the infantry to ANGLICO and seeing how they operate, and what nuances really irked you when you first got there? What kind of pissed you off? You're like, these motherfuckers.
Okay, so what always pisses everyone off is the old I just want to do my job. I don't want to wear a collared shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
That is part of your job. You are a Marine. And one of the requirements of being a Marine that we pay you to do, right? We pay you every 2 weeks to do this, is to do whatever the hell Uncle Sam wants you to do.
Yep.
He wants you to wear a goddamn collared shirt and wear a belt, then wear a collared shirt and a belt. So that's the number one thing that irks you. But that irks you anywhere. Even when you're in the grunts, you get the same thing. Oh, it's so stupid. We have to wear shoes. Look, we're not freaking hippies.
Yeah.
I'm a Marine. I kill people. I'm great in the field. You wear uniforms too.
Junior Marines will find anything to bitch about.
Well, of course.
They'll make up shit to bitch about.
Yes, they will.
I can't do this? That's bullshit. You're like, what are you talking about?
Why can't I get a tattoo of a spider on my neck?
Yeah, right?
Because I want you to be successful later in life. If you want to condemn yourself to a lifelong, manual labor forever, then get a giant spider on your neck. You're probably not going to make it much past, the lower levels of employment.
Yeah.
You might, but you probably won't.
Yeah.
Because we have stigmas. That's just the way life is.
Yeah.
Not that everybody with a spider on their neck is a bad person. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
So that's the ANGLICO thing, On the flip side, I was really impressed with the level of professionalism from some of the junior officers, like FIC team leaders.
There's a lot of pressure put on some of those guys.
I expected what I expected from other people telling me what to expect was a bunch of wild captains that thought they were cooler and were too cool for school and were just gonna act like they were all
a lot of bros.
Yeah, a lot of bro hamming.
Yeah.
I was really surprised that the opposite was true. There was some of that.
Naturally.
Because in every organization you're going to have a few people that personalities. But I was really surprised at the level of professionalism in the junior officers. I was really surprised at the level of professionalism in the mid-level NCO. Now there were some downsides to that too.
Yeah.
You're like, you can't get anything done because everybody's a damn sergeant.
Yeah.
So everybody's in charge and nobody's actually sweeping.
Yeah.
So, but same thing you got in the grunts. You got I got a Purple Heart. I don't mop the floor. Yes, you do. You mop the floor like everybody else.
Yeah.
Because you're a Lance Corporal. Mop.
You still don't have the stripe that keeps you from mopping the floor.
Exactly. Mop. This is my second combat deployment. Good. You know how to sweep really good. Sweep some more. So you have to kind of be that way. And so there was a little bit of that in ANGLICO. Well, I'm in ANGLICO. I don't
want to get my hair cut.
Yeah, I don't cut my hair. Well, yes, you do. I'm still paying you. That's one thing I wish I could change in the Marine Corps. I wish I was in charge of the pay. So when I was first sergeant, I'd be like, no pay for you. No pay for you.
Yeah, keep fucking around.
Yeah.
Keep fucking around. We'll take it next week as well.
Yep. Oh, you lost your ammo pouch? No pay for you.
Yeah.
I think we could solve a lot of discipline issues. We wouldn't need NJP. We wouldn't need, to ruin someone's career. Just, hey, you got drunk, got arrested? Good. You're paying the cop's salary this month and whatever. I know it's funny, but it would solve a lot of problems. No,
that's great. That's great. I want to get to what you did at ANGLICO, and then I want to also talk about the deployment and stuff like that. But we're at 3 hours, so I'm going to do, I know, right? So what I'm going to do is I have some questions. I put it up on Facebook and on my Instagram if people had any questions. So I'm going to go through some of these questions with you. And then what we'll do is we'll share the rest of your story on another episode. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about maybe having another guy on, like maybe you and another dude from ANGLICO on at the same time, so that you guys can kind of bounce off each other, because you spent quite a bit of time there, right? How long were you at ANGLICO?
5 years.
5 years. So that's a pretty good amount.
5 years, including my terminal leave and stuff. So,
all right. So the first question that someone sent was from Steven Pushkin. That's all one word. This is all from Instagram. He said, "How was it being an 03 and coming to ANGLICO?" So, did you want to? How do you want to answer that? I guess we kind of talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it. I mean, ANGLICO is kind of an 03-ish type thing. I never saw the difference, even when I was with the engineers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a different mentality in the grunts, yes.
Yeah.
They expect to be dirty and shit on. ANGLICO doesn't expect to be shit on. They expect to be treated like heroes. But they're dirty.
A bunch of fucking heroes. Yeah.
They're dirty. They're just like the rest of us, man.
Just living in the field.
Yeah. So they were doing... they get a little better. They got a little better treatment because you get better equipment.
Yeah.
Like, I can't stick you in a mud pit with that radio, because that radio is expensive.
Yeah.
You can get dirty. That radio cannot get dirty.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
We were spoiled with some good gear there.
Yeah, good gear and lots of money. That was the one thing difference in the grunts. In the grunts, you lost the ammo pouch, you're getting your ass kicked by the platoon sergeant. In ANGLICO, if you lost an ammo pouch, you just went and got 3 more. From some other and different brands.
I didn't realize how much gear was in the supply warehouse until one day I'm like, well, I've been here for like 2 months. I'd already gotten my initial supply they gave me. I'm going to let me walk over there and see what all they have. And I'm like going down aisles like I'm at Lowe's.
That's so funny you say that.
Looking at flashlights, looking at everything, like all kinds of pouches. There's like 4 different packs you could choose from.
Yeah, they're like, Mr. Kramer, would you prefer this pouch or that pouch?
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, that was one of the shockers. So I check in and I go to supply to get my stuff. And we're going to Afghanistan in a month or 3 weeks or whatever. And they're like, well, which kind of flak jacket do you like? You like this kind or that kind?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just give me the one that everybody else has.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, some people like this and some people like that. And I'm like, shit.
I like the one that ANGLICO gave us. We had the Frisbee. One of the Frisbee ones. I can't remember which one exactly, but we had the Frisbee. The only thing I didn't like on it was that mine sometimes would ride a little low on my chest. You know how it's like below where you want it to be?
Yeah.
So I had to constantly kind of fuck with it for that, but...
That's the tank top looking one, right?
Yeah.
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 I just had the kid in S1 tell me which one to wear.
Yeah.
He had been on the last deployment. I'm like, hey, just tell me which one is the most comfortable. And
it's just weird. You have a choice.
Yeah. That was a definite... That answers that question. Yeah, that was the difference between the grunts and their...
Fairbear _89, which is Farrell. You remember Farrell from Salt Chuck?
Yes.
He says, I'm still butthurt about all the sandbags I had to fill that day.
Oh, wait, that was...
I think this is when... I think this was right before... This happened right before I got there, where you had them surround the CP in sandbags and then cover the entire building in cami netting.
Yes.
And then someone... Who was it? Some general or somebody drove by and didn't like it?
Yeah, somebody complained because it was a tear fest, because people are crybabies. And, anything that's manly and tactical... Well, we want to... I don't know what the problem was. Somebody called the fire department and said it was a fire hazard. You know what my response to that is? It's a brick building. If it's on fire so bad that it's a brick building and we can't get out... The doors weren't cami netted in. It wasn't a fire hazard. They were just being sissies.
That's funny. All right, the next question here. _Luke Reeve says, tips or words of advice for guys going infantry and favorite thing about being infantry.
Let's see. Tips for going to infantry. Stay in physical condition. The grunts are always in shape. No, we're not. There's a lot of opportunities for us to get out of shape. Don't bodybuild. That's one of the things they all want to... They think being a Marine is this... You got to be this big, square jaw muscle dude. Nope. Endurance work. Heavy... a lot of calisthenics, a lot of endurance work, a lot of walking.
A lot of walking. Get out and hike the mountains.
Yep. Hike the mountains. Run. But you don't have to run yourself to death. That was one of the things that I learned through. It took me a long time, but you don't have to run yourself to death every time. As long as you do it consistently, you hike consistently. Know what the hell you're talking about. It's not hard.
Yeah.
You can be a really good infantryman. You learn your weapon systems, everything about them, all the stuff that make you memorize that you forget as soon as the test is over.
All the knowledge.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, I'm too cool for that. Practice makes perfect. How many times have you heard somebody tell you, oh, hey, Sergeant, we already know how to do this? Well, you think an NFL football team tells their coach, hey, we've already run this drill 500 times.
Yeah.
No, you're running it 500 more because it needs to become second nature. Everything in the infantry has to be second nature because there's no time to sit down and look it in the book. You can't look up, whether or not your weapon's going to reach that, or you can't look up, combat. When people get hurt, what's that? What do we call that class we used to do? Combat.
Oh, combat lifesaver.
Yeah, combat lifesaver.
CLS.
You can't look that shit up.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, Matt Giannis, got shot in the chest, and it went down the SAPI plate. So it hit right at the top, went down the SAPI plate, between the SAPI plate and his body.
Oh, really?
So yeah, run in there, rip it open. I think I'm doing a CASEVAC. I think he's on his way out, and it just looks like he got whipped with a extension cord across the chest.
Wow. Talking about being lucky.
Yeah, he caught it right at the edge. But that's the stuff. You got to know that right then.
Yeah.
You don't have time to, hey, let me look up what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. And your cell phone's not available, on the streets of Iraq and Afghanistan. You're not, let me Google this
I'll
real quick.
Google it. No, you won't.
Yeah.
So be a professional, man.
That's good advice anywhere. Just be a professional.
It's
know your job.
For everything. If you're working at,
don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah. If you're working at Alberto's, I went to the Ford dealer one time, almost bought a truck because the salesman knew everything about everything, and I already knew because I'm into cars.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I could trust this guy. Be a professional.
There's nothing worse than being a car guy and you're talking to somebody. Like I remember I had to take, side story, I had to replace, or I didn't have to, I was upgrading my Evo when I had it, and I was, one of the bolts snapped off and I had to get it extracted. Yeah. And I couldn't do it. I could do a lot of stuff, but I didn't, where it was at and the tools I had, I wasn't able to do it, so I was going to take it to a shop. And I took it to the shop, and it's this shitty-ass shop right outside of Camp Lejeune. Majestic Motorsports, fucking known to scam dudes, right? And I know this, and I'm like, that's the closest one. If I don't do that, then I'm going to have to pay like $150 to get it towed to Wilmington or something. So I take it to this place, and this guy's like, yeah, it's going to be $600 to extract this and then do this and I'm like, what? And he's like, well, it's really hard to get this one bolt out. And I'm like, yeah, that bolt underneath the car next to the oil pan to the right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, well, we'll charge you $250 then. I'm like, you piece of shit.
Yeah. But I hate when people do that. It's kind of like when you ask,
don't be a dick. Be a good person.
Yeah, be a good person. Treat people with dignity and respect. But yeah,
and then your company doesn't get talked bad about on a podcast. That people that are
you throw them under the bus, man.
Fuck them, man.
Yeah,
And I've had multiple people that have gone to that same location that have had similar problems.
And the exact opposite is true too. Like I told you about the exhaust shop I took my son's buddy's car to. Those guys went out of their way to do us right.
Yeah.
And they even called him on the cell phone and said, hey, come back. I can hear you bottoming out. We'll do it over again. Now, this was after they were supposed to be closed.
That's awesome.
So those are the kind of guys that you and that's kind of infantryman you want to be. A lot of people talk crap. Oh, he's great in the field. He knows his stuff. No, he doesn't.
They put on a good face.
They put on the good face, and then when it's in garrison, they got to go to dental, and they got some excuse for not. Hey, you know what? Take care of the guy beneath you. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because you know what? If you fuck something up, like I screwed up a lot of stuff as a first sergeant and sergeant major, and luckily for me, guys beneath me were like, oh, I'm not going to let this guy fall on his face.
Yeah.
Let me run interference. Let me solve the problem. I've had S1 guys come before and say, hey, you pissed this away, but it's already fixed. Here you go, sign here. So that's the advice for the infantry guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's way better than some S1 people. I hate them. They see one error and they don't read the rest of the document. They kick it back to you, and you fix that one error and you bring it back, and they're like, "Well, there's this too." You're like,
yes.
"Dude,
I hate professors that do that too.
Tell me all about it. Yeah.
Like, hey man, you're the professor. Help me out, bro.
So I had 273.Bauer, Bauer. He says what, and he messed this up, but he said, what is your biggest inspiration to join the Army and stay in for so long? Obviously, you joined the Marines, not the Army. Well, you did the Army National Guard, but what was your biggest inspiration to stay in the Marines until retirement? How long were you in for? It was
with the Army time, it was 33 years.
Okay. And you didn't want to get out. I remember.
No, yeah.
I remember the retirement ceremony. I remember it all.
I wish I remembered that damn thing.
It was a good time.
One good piece of advice is don't shoot any whiskey before you give your speech. That was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. I might have lost my place 5 times.
That's funny.
But it doesn't matter. It's all family anyways.
Yeah. So it was a good time.
Yeah, they know. Hey, that's the drunk uncle.
So what was your inspiration for staying in until retirement?
So initially, my family, my stepdad and my dad, both Army guys. Family goes back on both sides, uncles that served in World War II in the Marines. Most everybody was in the Army, or my grandfather on my mom's side, he was in the Navy in World War II. Mm-hmm. So, just like you, I grew up around it or somewhat exposed to it.
Yeah.
And you just want to be a part of something greater than yourself. So that's something I recommend for all. Anybody who is physically capable and actually believes in the greater good, the military is a great place to start. And for parents, parents should understand that, hey, your kids are going to go away. They're going to spend the next 4 years that they would be making total asses of themselves in college. I know you're taking classes on the actual campus.
Yeah.
I tried. It's a freaking moron parade. Maybe I have more patience now. It's been a couple years, but I couldn't stand the ignorance of an 18-year-old kid with his face buried in his phone, standing in the doorway like you're the only thing on the face of the earth. Yeah. So anyways, your kids go away to the military for 4 years. And especially the Marine Corps, because the first couple years they're watched over by NCOs. Guys are a little older than them, a little more mature, a little more experience. So they kind of got some pseudo parents. Mm-hmm. And then by the time they get promoted, as long as they do what they're told, it's a gravy train.
Yeah.
And then at the end of 4 years, they can get out and they can go do whatever. There's a story of, I don't know, it's Mary and Sally. Sally doesn't like to be told what to do. And she's a free spirit. So she's going to head off to college and get a degree in whatever. And I'm not banging college. I'm just giving the example. Mary doesn't have the financial backing of her parents. Her parents told her what I told my kids. You want to go to college? Join the military, get your own damn GI Bill. I'm not giving you mine. I earned mine. So, Mary goes...
Fuck them. No.
Yeah. Hey, you're going to grow? You're going to grow the hard way. I was too soft on people, and then the result was not positive. So now, the opposite. So anyways, Mary goes. She joins the Marines. She does her 4 years. She becomes a sergeant or a corporal. She learns leadership skills. She learns people skills. She learns how to deal with shit that she doesn't want to deal with, like being told what to do and having to do, field day on Friday after you failed on Thursday and all the little games. She learns all that. So she has built character, leadership skills, and she has a GI Bill. Mm-hmm. She gets out. She goes to school. Sally over here, she did her 4 years, and she's working at the local coffee shop looking for a job in her field of expertise. Mary did 4 years, got paid during that 4 years, is going to school at night, and now she is
getting
Sally's
paid
boss.
To go to school as well.
She's getting paid to go to school, and she's made money for 4 years, and she's working at the local coffee shop while she's in school, and she's actually Sally's boss.
Yeah.
She's telling Sally what to do.
Yeah, because she's got that experience.
Yeah, and so Sally could have been in the same boat, but she didn't want to be told what to do or cut her hair or,
People don't know, man. People that are not in the game, in the organization, part of the team, you know, they don't get it. Someone asked me why I thought that, because I had mentioned to somebody that I thought more people that were in the military should be involved in politics. And they're like, why do you think that? And I'm like, well, one, just the diversity of the military is so much greater than your average world. There's a high number of white males in combat arms, but in the military in general, it's pretty diverse, and not just in race or sex, because I think the Marine Corps is 7% female. It's like the lowest. Not just in race and sex, but regionally. You, like, when you got to your first fire team, where were the guys from your fire team from? None of them were from your hometown.
Exactly. And everybody was from somewhere else.
So you're getting influence from, like, people from Connecticut, people from Florida, people from Texas, people from Ohio, people from Washington, people, So not only is it like the diversity of people of, like, different races and sex and stuff like that, but the diversity of thought because of different levels of education, different experiences, because someone growing up in poverty in Alabama is different than someone growing up in maybe middle class in, like, LA.
Sure.
The two life experiences are different, and what better place to learn about somebody else than that?
Oh yeah,
because if
you're not going to find a more diverse group than the military. They always, colleges like to do that, or businesses like to say, oh, we're super diverse.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You have groups of people of different sex, races or ethnic backgrounds or religions, but they tend to kind of pool together.
Yeah, they still make their own little tribes.
Yeah, sure, because that's just human nature. People like to hang out with people that like the same things they like. Yeah. Indian guys like to hang out with people that like to make Indian food. My platoon sergeant was from India, and man, he introduced us to some great stuff. But anyways, that's a great story I have to tell you one day. But anyways, the military, your roommate, if you have a roommate, if you're not in the open squad bay. In the open squad bay days, it was awesome because everybody was in there. So you had the guy that couldn't speak English that was from Africa. How he got through boot camp, I'll never know.
I had a Cuban kid in my platoon like that. Didn't speak English. He said he could say yes and no, and that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
He got us fucked up so many times because he couldn't speak English. A whole platoon was paying for him.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had a kid that couldn't speak English. I made him my radio operator when I was a platoon sergeant.
What? Why would you do that?
It was to drive him to learn.
Oh.
So
everyone must suffer.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was going to be as bad as it was. I thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to make him the radio man, and he's going to have to learn English. And it's going to benefit all of us. But we missed extract a couple times in some operations here at Camp Pendleton. I mean, so you missed the extract, the helicopters. You get yelled at because the helicopter went to where you're not at because he transposed some numbers on the grid. And we were in the wrong place quite often. But he did learn English, except for he talked like he was on the radio.
Oh, really?
He'd say things like, let's go PX, over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When he's just walking around?
Yeah, it took him time to integrate the language, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Different
people. And the people that think that only morons are in the military or only idiots are in the infantry. One of my first platoon sergeants, so when I got sent to maintenance battalion, I got TAD'd over to work on the EFSS project, the 120 millimeter mortar and the little Jeep and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And on that training, like during that whole process, there was an artillery training team and an infantry training team. And I was the mechanic, so I went back and forth with them. The infantry guys actually drove more, so I ended up getting attached to the infantry guys for most of the time. And so when I was there, my platoon sergeant I got attached to, this dude had this guy had a bachelor's degree in, I think it was it was electrical engineering. He had an electrical engineering degree, got out of college, worked for a little bit, was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
There's a war going on. I want something different. So he joined the Marine Corps, 0311, that's what he wanted to do. Infantry, like not an officer or anything, enlisted dude. And, I mean, that's just, I point that out just because people are like, everyone in the infantry is retarded, or everyone in, the artillery they're all morons, But in reality, it's a diverse group of
and
left-wing people, right-wing people, super religious people, non-religious people, musicians, artists.
Well, you get exposed
nerds,
to all that.
Fucking losers.
And they're all your friends.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I think that's the biggest
And
difference.
even if they're not your friends, you're still going to, like, okay, Johnny's coming out with this. Like, he's still one of us, though. Like, he'll come with us.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. Pete O'Mara, the guy that took me out the first time in Oceanside when I was a PFC or a private, he didn't know me. He was from Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just dressed like like I am now, the same way. And he was like this biker dude from Connecticut, but he was like, hey, come on, bro. I didn't know him from Adam. He took me out, and we became really good friends. He actually married a girl from the church, and
yeah,
lifelong friendships. But yeah,
definitely lifelong. I was telling, and I think I might have mentioned this on the podcast before. I was telling my neighbor, like, he was trying to say how being in the civilian side is better than being in the military. And I'm like, tell me one job that you've ever had where you can call those people 10 years down the road and have a couch to sleep on. I could call the friends that I've made throughout the military. Half my trip cross country was staying at people's houses. Yeah,
with buddies
guys I knew from 10th Marines, guys I knew from ANGLICO, just different dudes that I've just met throughout the military, and they were like, hey, come sleep on my couch, man, it's cool. And then I brought my microphones and I interviewed them.
That's awesome. I've got to get on that thing and catch up with these things.
Yeah, the first this will be for everybody too, I guess. The first two episodes, the first one I broke up into two, and that's after that I was kind of like, I'm just gonna do it from one episode. Like, this will all be one episode. If you come back on, we'll obviously have a second episode, but I broke up the interview into two episodes. But the first one was about my corpsman who went to Sangin 3 times.
Oh man,
I know, right? And his first deployment, first month into his first deployment, he got blown up. And he had to get medevaced out and everything like that. He went back 2 more times. Him and I went together on an Afghan advisor team. So that's your first 2 episodes. The second episode is not as popular as the first one. It's funny when I look at the numbers. But the second one is where him and I talk extensively about our time as being Afghan National Army advisors. So, catch up on it. Take a listen. Yours is going to be episode 11.
Oh, wow. So you're far down there. Well,
I'm getting down there.
I don't think you're going to be able to keep somebody through 3 hours worth of us talking nonsense unless they're on a road trip.
Well, they'll turn it off, turn it back on.
Okay.
People pause it, turn it, it's one of those things, man. It's, I listen to podcasts. I drive to SDSU every day, and that's 45 minutes with no traffic each way. So I'm crushing podcasts. And there's other people like that out there.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I do it when I'm walking, when I'm jumping rope, when I'm running.
There's some interesting ones, like my buddy that was Motor T, I have a few JTACs, a few, just different people. I try to have and I want to expand. I want to expand to like, law enforcement people. I'd like to expand it to like some firefighters, maybe get a wildland firefighter on and talk about what it's like to do that, because that's a super cool job, especially the hot shots jumping out of airplanes to go put out a fire. Like,
what's his name? Mouse, he was an ANGLICO guy. He was a hot shot in the 60s.
Really?
The ANGLICO Association, if you link up with those guys,
I think I'm on their page on Facebook, but I'm not really involved a lot. Maybe I should get more involved.
Yeah, you ought to try them out. I mean, these are get-togethers.
Oh, what's his name?
The guy's name was Mouse. That was his nickname. But Reggie, I think Reggie is still the president of the ANGLICO Association.
Yeah,
and I'll link you up with them. I'll give you everything. You can put it in your show notes. But they get together, they do things for the company and stuff like that.
They just had an ANGLICO reunion in Colorado for all the ANGLICOs.
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
I think it was this weekend.
Actually, Colonel Russell and I had discussed maybe trying to work our schedules to end up there.
Yeah.
But we never put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, it happens.
I was bringing my son out. He deploys next month, so
the next one's in San Diego. They're doing it in 2 years in San Diego, so that'll be easy for us to do.
Yeah, we'll have to schedule it.
Yeah, we'll have to plan that one out.
What I hate the most is when you hear about these things, you're like, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, damn it.
Yeah, that was too. It was literally this weekend. All right, so last one comes from, I believe it's the last one. It's not really a question, it's a statement. Walt McDaniel from the ANGLICO Facebook page. He said, he's an awesome Marine. You'll love the interview. Just don't ask him how come he's still a nasty leg. He'll get all fired up.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
They offered, when I first got to ANGLICO, I didn't go to jump school. A lot of dudes on my team were jump qualified. When I first got there, they offered it. They were like, hey, Captain Watt was like, you're kind of the logical choice to go next. And I think I asked him, I'm like, am I going to get jump pay or anything from this? And he's like, no, there's no extra pay. Because it's not technically a jump unit. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go then. Like, I could honestly care less about jumping out of an airplane. Because everyone you talk to that goes to jump school, 1, says it sucks.
Yeah.
And 2, they're like, anybody that does the static line jumping, they're like, it's so painful. Like, it's so hard on your body. Just the whole jumping out and like the pulling of the chute and just slamming into the ground, like there's definitely a lot, and I know guys. I know a lot of guys that jump and stuff, and man, I had people telling me about these close calls, and I'm just like, dude, I don't need that. And I'm not getting extra pay for it. I'm not getting anything good out of it. Like, why the fuck am I going to put myself through that? I had a buddy who was talking about how he jumped, and you know, the static line ones, they can't really steer those very well. And he said he jumped, and this is at Lejeune, and he was coming into the LZ on Lejeune, and he saw a piece of rebar sticking out of the ground, sticking straight up, and he's heading for it. He's like, dude, I thought I was going to be impaled. He's like, I missed it by a couple feet. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And that's the kind of shit you hear about. And I'm like, I don't know if I need to. I already do enough crazy shit already. Like, if they were like, hey, man, we need you to go to jump school because you might actually go do a mission, then I'd be like, all right, let's do this. But when's the last time we did a static line fucking jump into anywhere? I think they did one into Bagram or something, but
I don't know.
That was more for show than I think actual combat.
Yeah. It's a delivery method.
It's a delivery method, but it's not one that, I mean, hell, even the 101st doesn't jump anymore, so, like, what are you going to do? But, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't go. Well, at first there was no opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, back in the 80s into the 90s, you didn't go to jump school unless you got it as a re-enlistment thing or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I think my re-enlistment was, it's 1300, go home early. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Not all of us can jump out of planes.
No.
You know? Not all of us want to.
I just don't want to go through the, now I wouldn't want to go through the 2 weeks of some, you know, Army NCO giving me a hard time, you know, while they're inside with sweats and I'm outside doing side straddle hops at 05 in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well, I feel like we're about to hit 3.5 hours here, so I feel like it's a good spot we can call it. Is there any, if you want, you can put your own social media out there. Are there any kind of like organizations that you want to kind of promote? Any kind of groups that you like the last guy, you know, people promote different, like Team Rubicon was one that a guy had talked about and stuff like that. So I don't know if you have anything you want to shout out.
Oh man, there's a list of them. I would say if the younger guys need to join those organizations, American Legion, you know, VFW, and they're not just drinking clubs.
Yeah,
they can be used that way. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy my you know $3 cocktails. You can't get that anywhere.
Yeah.
But those organizations is why we have the benefits that we have now. The veterans benefits, the school benefits. You know, before it was, hey, thanks for your service, see you later. There was no GI Bill, there was no VA, there was none of that. You know.
Yeah, they're the biggest lobbyers for our own.
Yeah, and as those organizations get smaller, you see how we get treated, and they cut back on the benefits. So
yeah, I need to get over to the one. Where's the one? Well, we'll talk about it when we get off here. But anything else?
You know what? There probably is, but I can't think of anything.
Well, I'm gonna have you back on. Because you still have more stuff to tell. We haven't even really talked about like that ANGLICO deployment or anything like that.
Yeah,
because you were there for the company deployment.
Yeah, the last company deployment.
So
I thought we were going to get more. We kind of got gypped out of fighting some more.
Yeah, it happens. But thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming over. And all right.
Well, I appreciate you asking me. I'm honored, and I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, everybody. Have a good one.